West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Dude, this is going to be one for the record books. This day is crazy. Coming up later in the show, Jeff Crank, Congressman, Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman, Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado Institute. We have so much to cover. What's happening in Washington, D.C., what's happening here in Colorado. We're going to get into the news, and we're going to get into your thoughts because, Denver, this is where your voice is heard loud and clear. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. But now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, hump day. It's 30 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 47 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, the money poured into the race for Wisconsin State Supreme Court, and Susan Crawford defeats Brad Schimmel. And now get ready for the gerrymandering. The lefty commies love this. Control the country through judges. The great Newt Gingrich was on Capitol Hill Tuesday.
Clearly, a majority of Americans believe that no single district judge should be allowed to issue a nationwide injunction. And I think that when you look, in my judgment as a historian, this is clearly a judicial coup d'etat. You don't have this many different judges issuing this many different nationwide injunctions, all of them coming from the same political ideological background.
So the left, they're getting out there to vote for judges, and they're doing it through the judicial system. There was some good news last night.
John King, what do you? Oh, look at that! A lot more red has shown up on that map of Florida's 6 since we last spoke. I guess some of those early votes weren't indicative of where the counties ultimately would end up.
No, and so the question is, number one, let's just look at Volusia County right here. It's getting closer. Can the Democrat hold the county? Is there a little bit of moral victory in that? Number two, we've now projected the race. Randy Fine is coming to Congress as a new Republican congressman.
And DJT posting on Truth Social, both Florida House seats have been won big by the Republican candidates. He said the Trump endorsement, as always, proved far greater than the Democrats' forces of evil. Congratulations to America, at least in Florida. It was a good night. Cory Booker, he finished his filibuster, 25 hours, 5 minutes of America hating. Same old garbage. Let's destroy the greatest country ever created and crush what God created. Stephen Miller on Fox News Channel.
That's the first ever filibuster in American history from Cory Booker in favor of getting men into women's sports, keeping our borders open, and making sure that we tax the wages of our tip workers in Nevada. So very courageously, Cory Booker has stood strong for those three issues. Here's what he never filibustered for. Here's what the Democrats never filibustered for. The dead bodies of American citizens raped, mutilated, and murdered by the illegal aliens that Joe Biden and his administration and Secretary Mayorkas funneled into our country during the invasion that took place over the last 4 years.
Boy, that is the truth. Hey, if you need some good news, Harry Enton, CNN.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove. 68% And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
Actor Val Kilmer has died at the age of 65. He was diagnosed with throat cancer in 2014, but recovered. So
sad, man.
Said he died of pneumonia. Yeah, absolutely.
Iceman, rest in peace.
Absolutely. No doubt. Very young. The second criminal who escaped ICE custody a few weeks ago has been recaptured on a bus at Colfax and Cherry Street. The U.S. Marshals Service said Guyland Vito Romero was caught with the coordination of Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and he'll be turned over to the marshals to face criminal charges. Reports are saying that at least 9 student visas in Colorado were among the 300 international visas to be canceled. The University of Colorado confirmed that 4 of its international students who were attending on F1 visas had their visas revoked. CSU said that 5 of its international students were impacted. I haven't gotten to this yet this week. I've had it for a couple of days, but you got to hear this. 60 Minutes Leslie Stahl interviewing a Jewish hostage who was released, Keith Siegel, who said that Hamas starved him. She didn't believe him, evidently. Incredible.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food.
Wow. I got to hear that one more time.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food.
Or maybe they just didn't have food. Maybe you were just imagining that.
So, gosh, Blake, that takes me back to when I was at the Palestinian protests outside the DNC for like 4 days.
Yes.
This last summer, I think it was, August. Yeah. And part of the weird thing you tried having a conversation with them was their worldview was just so off that you had a hard time even conversing with them. So, for instance, they would say, no, the Jewish hostages love us, the Palestinians. In fact, after they've been treated so well by us and returned to Israel, they'll send love letters back to the Palestinian hostage takers about how well they were treated. And you're like, what world?
Amazing.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, my goodness. The hallmarks, they would actually believe that.
Right.
I mean, that can't be true.
We kidnapped you from your family, killed one of the other members of your family, and then you fell in love with us and wrote love letters back to how much you appreciated our care. I mean, it was so weird.
Delusional.
But you kind of see a little bit of that crossover there with Leslie Stahl.
Right?
Well, maybe. Maybe they
so.
didn't have the food.
Yeah, maybe they're the victims here. Maybe. That's amazing. That's interesting. I forgot that you experienced all that. That seems like 10 years ago, and that was 6 months ago or whatever.
That's exactly right.
Right? I remember during that time.
Yeah, this job I'm in now has put me in some fun situations.
Boy,
4 days with Palestinian
right.
protesters, Bernie protesters,
You're meeting
anti-Trump. Dude,
You're meeting all the entertaining people.
I'm gonna have to end up getting one of those like press flak jackets. Stand around with those goofy helmets on.
You're getting to that point, man. I'm serious, dude. I don't know. When they see the guy with the cowboy hat coming, man, you may want to get your vest. I agree with you, buddy. Hey, news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com.
Wolves are going to win it in a dramatic double overtime win on the road by 1.
T-Wolves beat the Nuggets 140-139 in double overtime. Avs at the Blackhawks tonight at 7:30. Rockies at the Phillies tonight at 4:45. 27 in Parker, 28 in Lakewood, and 30 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It's Hump Day. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A cool and unsettled stretch of weather will continue here for Denver through this work week and probably all the way through Saturday. Temperatures will be low to mid-50s today, cloudy with a few rain and snow showers around the area today and tonight, lows lower 30s. 40s and lower 50s Wednesday, a few showers of rain and snow with low to mid-40s Thursday into Thursday night, and areas of rain and snow Friday and Saturday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, we got a lot of news to talk about. I want to get to advanced hair restoration real quick. Look, you're losing your hair. You need a simple solution that works. You want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. You got a receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair? Address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments, and get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the Advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It all starts with your free consultation. Here's their phone number, 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. Or visit advancedhair.com. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with a team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. All right, Bill, lots to talk about, but this one I found kind of unique and interesting in light of the interview and all the Bernie AOC people down there. When I was down at the Civic Center Park, I noticed a lot of people with like Luigi hats, like out of the Mario video game. Yeah. And I was sitting there going, what in the world? What? Why? Is this like a fashion trend that people are wearing Luigi hats from Mario and Luigi? And then it dawned on me after I interviewed the lady that was wearing a shirt that said, "But Daddy, I love him." They're talking about Luigi Mangione, the guy who killed the United Healthcare CEO. Yeah. And yesterday, federal prosecutors are calling for the death penalty for this guy. Here's the Associated Press. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said Tuesday that she's directed prosecutors to seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, following through on the president's campaign promise to vigorously pursue capital punishment. It is the first time the Justice Department has sought to bring the death penalty since President Donald Trump returned to office in January with a vow to resume federal executions after they were halted under the previous administration. They say Luigi Mangione's murder of Brian Thompson, an innocent man and father of 2 young children, was a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. Pam Bondi said in a statement she described Thompson's killing as an act of political violence. Mangione, a 26-year-old Ivy League graduate from a prominent Maryland real estate family, faces separate federal and state murder charges after authorities say he gunned down Thompson, 50 years old, outside a Manhattan hotel on December 4th. That was just December 4th. Speaking to Blake about the fact that it seems like that was a long time ago. That was only December 4th. As the executive arrived for the United Healthcare's annual investor conference. So in talking with Bernie Sanders supporters, they see this guy as a bit of a hero. And he's striking back against the corrupt healthcare system that's harmed so many people. I think it's great, the fact that the Trump administration's calling for the death penalty. It is not right in this country to assassinate people because you dislike, some aspect of our country, of the way things are being run. If you don't like the healthcare system, if you don't like United Healthcare, those types of things, it's not right to plan and execute an assassination against them. I think the Trump administration's got to send a strong signal to this country that we're not going to tolerate this stuff. I think it's appropriate to pursue the death penalty in this case. Your thoughts, Bill?
I'm less convinced. I'm not against them pursuing the death penalty in this case. I'm not a full-throated supporter of the death penalty because I just fundamentally...
Because you're Catholic.
No, that's part of it. That's part of it. But I disagree with the idea of the state having the power to kill its citizens. I fundamentally have a little bit of an issue with giving the state that power. Because how, and what could we do with it? I imagine there would be some listeners and possibly some MAGA supporters that might cheer the death penalty for the people that are destroying Teslas, that are showing up at the dealerships and burning them down and stuff like that. There may be some support. I'm not saying a large group of supporters, but I bet there are some supporters in the audience or in MAGA that would support the death penalty for that behavior. Now that's kind of what I have the issue for, is once you use it as a punishment, where do we draw that line? And I think this is an appropriate line. This one, and I also think it is good because it gives the prosecutors more tools in their toolbox. It gives something else to take off the table to get Mangione to do something else.
Right.
So
this is that type of
this
thing.
is a great negotiating tactic. And in all honesty, that's where the majority of my death penalty support comes from, is the idea that I see prosecutors being able to use that as a negotiating tactic and can get things out of defendants they wouldn't normally. So as twisted as that is in my weird little head, I don't fundamentally agree with the execution of it, and I'm using that word intentionally, but I do agree with it being a chip in the game. I can see the reason for that. And if there is ever a time in which we would say the death penalty can be appropriately applied, I think when you are seen on security footage committing the crime, that's probably a pretty good one. When we lean on other eyewitness testimony and other things that happen, then there's some other things that become a little more murky. But doing it on camera, yeah, pretty good. I'm not so certain this is necessarily going to be a deterrent, and I understand why Luigi has become a cause célèbre, because so many people across the country have felt done wrong by their insurance company. And what I think we miss in some of the frustration that people have is that we don't have a free market for insurance. We don't, as a consumer, get to go out there and pick who would be the best coverage for our family. And that's a problem because we tie it to our employer, and our employer chooses. We could really like doctors or other people in our neighborhood. We could be at one job and have one healthcare and have a great experience, move to a different healthcare system because we got a different job, and it could be an absolute nightmare. So that's the problem I see, as far as the healthcare industry and why he's become this celebrity, because he gave voice and action to so many people that have dealt with the denial letters from their doctors and from their healthcare institutions saying that even though my doctor and my surgeons, everybody else has recommended this, we're not going to do this. And 9 times out of 10, if you go down, the insurance company is not doing it because they don't think it can help you. They're doing it because it hurts the bottom line. Yeah.
Yep.
So
deny. What is it?
Yeah, deny. It's I forgot what he wrote on the what he wrote on the bullets. Yeah.
Right.
So, and that's it. Deny, delay, depose. That's
yes.
it. There we go.
Right.
It took me a minute. So that's what we're working. That's what we're looking at. So while it's not, I don't agree with them saying that he's a celebrity, and I don't agree with them putting on the Luigi hats. Boy, do I understand the emotion. I really, really understand the emotion. In part, a good friend of mine had it's a tragedy, like about a month and a half ago. His mom and dad, they live in Pueblo, were in a horrible car accident where the car was T-boned. Mom's not doing well on health, and dad had been struggling on some stuff to begin with. Car's T-boned, mom dies. Dad spends the next 5 weeks in the hospital. He doesn't know that his wife has passed for 2 weeks after she's gone and wakes up to that. I mean, it is horrible, the entire story. And now dad's in in a nursing care facility. But anybody that has gone through that understands the clock ticks. That as soon as you walk through that door, the insurance company starts a timer. They're tick, 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 tick. And they only give you so many days. And there are only so many days based on certain care and things that he can receive. And if the care that he's receiving, some of the rehab, isn't working right, timer stops. He gets kicked out immediately. It's not about where dad can go. It's not about paying for it. And so that's the frustration. That's the emotion behind it, because the insurance company is not worried about whether or not this facility can help dad and what the next facility he would transition into. They're not even going to help him transition into another facility. It's get out. And if that means dad sits on the street, fine. The insurance company is okay with that. So it's that caustic behavior towards consumers that gives this voice. And so I don't agree with them making him a celebrity, but oh boy, do I understand it.
Well, and what you're seeing come out of that kind of Bernie Sanders wing is signs, and I've seen a lot of them down there, eat the rich, and then the kind of celebrity treatment of Luigi Mangione, that they're willing to justify in their mind violence. And you heard the audio of that one woman that goes, I'm absolutely willing to justify violence in order to burn the system down.
Yeah.
And then you overlay that with what's happening to Teslas out there, and you see the justification for violence taking place. Here's something that's interesting.
We can even talk to some MAGA supporters about things that happened in January about justifications for violence. I mean, there are some things, so there are some things on either side in which we've had people talk about for a while that if this country keeps going this direction, we need to go to Second Amendment solutions. That's former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin that first talked about that one years ago. So, yes, this call for violence if we don't get our way, it's somewhat baked into the system here in America.
So Politico saying this is how Trump loses Gen Z. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that she wants the prosecution to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione if he's convicted. Mangione was charged again with the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, which Bondi decried as premeditated, cold-blooded assassination and an act of political violence. Now, I've seen it among some Bernie supporters. I don't see a lot of Gen Z going, well, Luigi Mangione deserves to be, live in prison for the rest of his life or maybe even set free. I think Politico got that take wrong. This is how Trump loses Gen Z?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it would depend on... I think it would depend on how the case goes forward, because if Gen Z views this as the Trump administration protecting the large insurance companies and making sure they're safe and secure, then I can see them losing the voters, because Gen Z is worried about keeping their own families safe and secure. They're going to be going through the questions as far as insurance, understanding what is covered and what isn't covered and things like that. And as they get older, the other things that are required as far as insurance. So if it's viewed that way, Politico may have a point. But from the idea that this guy planned and specifically had a process that was going to kill this individual, no. I don't think they went over Gen Z that way. I don't think in any way, shape, or form.
Jason with an interesting text here. It's going to be hard to find 12 people in any venue in this country that will unanimously give Luigi the death penalty. The insurance industry is much too hated with both Republicans and Democrats.
That's a good point. That's something that I hadn't even considered yet when you're talking about if you're going to have to seat a jury. How do you possibly find someone that says they can and will be unbiased? That is difficult because probably, yes, if you assemble a large group of potential jurors and you're trying to pull 12, 15, 18, I'd guarantee out of that dozen, you're going to get 2 that have had someone in their social circle have a bad experience with insurance companies and understand that the decision, and they probably, and I'm just putting words into people's mouths and into their heads, but probably viewing it as it was a profit motive, that the insurance company was making this choice so that they can get more money, not to make sure that my friend got the treatment that they needed. And especially if you have an elder parent, oh boy, those are going to be some really, really spicy jurors. That could be real dangerous.
5556 texting in, the death penalty would be a deterrent bill if it were carried out in a timely manner, not 20 years later on ridiculous appeals.
I'm not sure about that.
Oh, I think he there got spot on because oftentimes you get so far removed from the actual crime and then all the articles become about the appeals. You actually, I've had to go, I remember, reading about some of the appeals. Yeah. And you have to really go back to dig to what the original crime was in the first place.
Yeah, the appeals are lengthy and it does mess up the system. The thing this is the part as far as the deterrence that I'm always unsure about is I have yet to have an interaction with anyone that has committed a crime that felt they were going to get caught. I have a hard time. I mean, there's some people say, yeah, that was dumb. I made a mistake and I should have known I was going to get caught for this, but I haven't come across anyone, and I'm talking misdemeanors all the way up to serious felonies, and because I have some weird friends, and just the idea of, oh, I knew I was going to get caught for this, and that's the problem I have. I'm not saying that the death penalty can't be a deterrent. This idea that being such a strong universal deterrent, I'm not convinced because I don't think that if you've decided to murder somebody that you believe you're going to be caught in the first place. I think that's going to be baked into the system that you think you're going to be able to avoid this. There are some, obviously instances as far as crime of passion, stuff like that is different. We have a story recently where a guy comes home and finds wife in bed with someone else and kills the guy. And now he's facing charges. That's a crime of passion. That's obviously something where a death penalty isn't going to create a deterrent one way or the other, probably. But that's the idea. We have to assume that the criminals are thinking through their crime enough to go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do that because I know they're going to catch me.
Well, but Bill, to your point about the importance of being able to negotiate down, I'll give you an important example here. Talking to some of the guys in the DEA, and they were saying that because the federal sentencing is so much stricter you have to serve at least 85% of it. So bare minimum, if you go to federal prison for a drug-related charge, you're going to spend a long time in jail.
Yeah.
Guess what? They plead down over 95% of the cases.
Yeah, they're able to.
They don't have to. It's less than 5% actually go to trial because the guys are first of all, and an attorney that was present there too was saying this, and he was a defense attorney. He's like, when the DEA shows up, they're not messing around. Yeah. They have done their work prior to the arrest, during the arrest, after the arrest. This is not some local law enforcement. This is the DEA that's showing up. They have done their work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when those guys sit down and look at that, the attorneys are like, yeah, we're not going to trial, dude.
Yeah, we can't do this one. Yeah, there's no way we can do this one. And that for me I think that is the largest benefit of having the death penalty on the table. Now, I do think that there is some deterrence wrapped up inside the death penalty as far as where, when, stuff like that you commit the crime, because I do believe that criminals, based on some crimes they commit, will weigh consequences. And I'm leaning into the example you just had, Jeff, is federal versus state. is the idea that does this become federal because the feds don't mess around? Does this become state because the states are much more lenient and you get much more parole and you're probably only going to spend 50% of the time you're sentenced to in any given state per se. So I do think that calculation does work into their brain, but still, the criminals are committing the crime in part because they don't think they're going to get caught. So they have that part in their brain. So I'm not saying that the death penalty doesn't have a role. I think it does. I'm just not certain it is the large deterrent factor.
All right, Bill, so you're on the jury. Luigi Mangione has been found guilty of the premeditated murder and assassination of United Healthcare CEO. You vote for death penalty or not?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one because, again, I go back to I don't like the state having the power to kill its citizens. However, if the prosecution has done their job, and I'm giving them saying if they, they can bring in a case that convinces me, shows the premeditation, shows the steps that he took, knew the guy was going to be there at this time, had planned on killing him, and that was, 110% of the intent. If they can draw me through that story, and because he's got it on film, yeah, I think I could get there. I would be one of the people that would slow walk getting there. But yes, if the prosecution lays out the case for me and says, these are the steps, this was 110% premeditated, he took all of these actions, he made sure to know that he was here at the right time, he did this, he did that, and they show me the backlog of the how and the why, okay, yeah, I think I can get there. I absolutely think I can get there.
Fry him, send a message. I don't care how angry you are about the healthcare system in this country. You do not assassinate its executives just because you're frustrated. You're killing, in this case, a father of two innocently. You could disagree with the way he runs the company. You could be frustrated. You don't assassinate people you disagree with. Send a message and fry him. What do you think? Would you pull the lever in favor of a death penalty for Luigi Mangione? Pam Bondi calling for prosecutors to pursue it. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Want to talk to you about my friends over at the Black Eyed Pea of Colorado, locally owned and operated by Steve and Michelle. I love this restaurant. It's home-style cooking worth going out for. With 8 locations, there's sure to be one near you. When's the last time you took the family to eat at the Black Eyed Pea of Colorado? Everything is made from scratch. Roasted turkey breast dinner, mom's meatloaf, grilled salmon. How about homemade soups, great salads, and delicious mashed potatoes? They've got daily specials. They've got senior discounts, and better save room for dessert. At the Black Eyed Pea, they have a mile-high 1-pound chocolate cake, and it's absolutely incredible. Make your dinner party, rehearsal dinner, or wedding reception, or a company event a success with the Black Eyed Pea catering. And no matter what the occasion, Black Eyed Pea gift cards are always great. Whether you purchase them for your spouse, birthday favors, or holiday presents, they got you covered. I love everything about this restaurant, and I know you will as well. So keep it in Colorado and visit the Black Eyed Pea near you. All right, we'll get lots of phone calls and text messages coming in. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Attorney General Pam Bondi calling for federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione in the United Healthcare CEO's killing. I find this interesting because I went down to the Bernie Sanders rally, and he's become a bit of a celebrity icon to the Bernie crowd. People wearing Luigi hats, one lady wearing a shirt, and we interviewed her saying, "But Daddy, I love him. He's changing the world." What's happened to the radical left? We're an assassin. The right word.
We get to make up our own words.
Assassinator.
I love that.
An assassin is now being lauded by the radical left. What's happening? Let's go to the phone lines. Chris Castle Rock. Good morning, Chris. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Good morning. Sort of tying your two topics together, isn't it interesting where we literally spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to keep somebody on death penalty for 20, 30 years, yet we're kicking people out of the hospital that need medical coverage that committed no crime.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and it probably is also part of the anger towards the insurance companies, et cetera, that gave voice to what Mangione was doing.
I don't accept what he did, but I do know what the costs are, having dealt with some elderly parents and the costs that are involved with that, and insurance can only go so far. But I just find it fascinating that literally we'll spend somebody that's basically caught red-handed in a murder situation, premeditated, and we'll keep them on death row at hundreds of thousands of dollars
Chris,
a year.
Here's the thing, though, and this may not be fair, and I'm probably stretching where you were going with this as far as a conversation, but and Jeff is not going to like this at all. I'm just saying, just letting him know. What does that say about the idea or prospect in the U.S. of universal health care coverage? We provide universal health care coverage for the prisoners. And your pain point there is that the prisoners who are not gainfully employed and have actually violated the laws and the social contract in America are getting basically single-payer, government-sponsored health care. But the private citizens that are outside making the country work do not benefit from that same government program. Is this in some ways an argument for universal health care coverage?
Nope. But go ahead, Chris. I'll let you start.
No, I mean, I guess America's priorities of where we want to spend our monies, or we don't have a infinite budget to go with, and where we choose to spend our money. I have a problem with that, and I don't know that it's a reason for universal health care, but I'm not looking at the English universal health care, but where you might wait weeks or months to get a routine visit based on what I've read. So I'm not sure that's the answer either.
Yeah, but I would submit that people are rationing health care here in America already. The argument always is rationing, but we already do it based on cost and not seeking health care because of your insurance coverage. So when you're talking about the idea that we're spending money in certain areas and disagree, but here's the idea is we are, as a society, we've agreed universal free health care coverage for the prisoners, but not for the average citizen. That's where I'm going with this intellectually. The idea that we've created a priority saying we will do free health care for the citizen, not for citizens.
Tell me about
but
the
for
quality
prisoners.
of that health care they're getting in a prison system.
I don't know. I mean, it's got to be at least decent enough to keep them alive, per se. It's probably not on demand as much. But again, that was the argument, though. They're getting free health care inside of it, and we are not. And could that also lead to some of the idea of the anger and frustration that gave voice to the people wearing the Luigi hats down at the protest that Jeff saw?
Okay, very simple solution to this question.
Yeah.
Can you name anything else that the government pays for that got cheaper and better as a result?
I'd have to think about that for a while. I'd have to think. But
I don't disagree with you that the insurance companies are generating massive profits because it's a game system They have a lot of control. This stuff is not visible, what the costs are. There's not that much choice out there. It's all tied to our employment.
Yeah.
It's not a free market system.
Yeah, but
it's this bizarre, bloated system.
Yeah, I see where you're going, but if we look at, and I'd be super curious, Chris, about your opinion on this one, if we look at the healthcare system in and of itself, Medicare provides care at a better cost per patient. It's got better efficiency. It has much, much lower administrative costs. And you know what else they don't have? They don't have advertising and marketing costs. You don't have a Medicare stadium out there. You don't have the Medicare tournament. You don't have the Medicare
best doctors
football bowl.
Oftentimes won't accept Medicare because it's negotiated its prices so cheaply.
Yeah, I know, but that's
you're
part of
getting
it.
lower quality.
But the idea, not necessarily. And so, but the idea being that if you talk about cost and cost benefit analysis, in many times Medicare beats private insurance. So, I mean, Chris, what do you do with that one? The complaints that we have about insurance companies, Medicare doesn't seem to have those same issues.
And I've got a mother that's on Medicare, and if there wasn't a Medicare, I doubt thered be an insurance company willing to take her, or the cost would be so prohibitive that she couldn't have coverage. So I believe the Medicare system has a place where it does a great job. Bill, if you had the magic wand and said, okay, here's the X amount of dollars, where would you spend it? Would you spend it with the prisoners, 5-time felon, or, a mass murderer that's on death row, or would you rather spend it on the citizens to get maybe better or more affordable health care?
Oh, you've done a hard one, and I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate that a lot, Chris. Oh, yeah, the thing is, my heart would absolutely go with the private citizen. That's where I think that we would want to spend the larger point of the dollars, and I would do that because they are the ones that are generating the revenue, because the prisoner in that situation is a cost. They're on the cost side of the benefits ledger, and they're not necessarily producing. So if I had to, I would tilt it towards the U.S. citizens. However, I wouldn't advocate for a flat Medicare replacement. I think we could get to single payer, but in a different system. And there's some examples around the world, and I don't think we need to get into that right now. But Chris, thank you so much for that. That's a hard one, man. That's
Great
a really,
call,
really
Chris.
good question.
I appreciate
That's a really good question.
Phone lines are open,
Ooh, I
or
like
text us at 720-819-5115. That's the text line. Comes right in here to the studio. Pam Bondi calling for federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty for Luigi Mangione. Would you support it? If you were on that jury, would you vote to convict and to punish with the death penalty? We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS. And I'm still thinking about Chris's question.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's that time of the morning where we pivot from our debates for a little levity with You Choose the News.
Yes, it is that time of the morning where we get to make questionable decisions. It's what we call You Choose the News. Yes, it's America's favorite fake radio news game show. I have taken just mere moments this morning to scour the interwebs to find really, really dumb stories about us humans, because it's oh so easy. And then I've given them more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. Why would we be this irresponsible with valuable airtime on 710 KNUS? Because nobody in charge has any idea we are doing this. Nope, they don't wake up until 7. Once we found that out, Jeff and I went back to our teenage years and said, what can we do when mom and dad aren't watching? Alrighty, that's how this game is played. And remember, shh, it's a secret. Here we go. Blake Olson joins us from the newsroom. Jeff in the studio. Gentlemen, here are your headlines today. Headline number 1, when lies lead to the truth. Headline number 2, that's a kick to the nuts. Headline number 3, no, we are not drunk. And headline number 4, built on a house of lies.
There's a lot of lies there, huh,
Yes,
Bill?
there are.
Let's go. Lies lead to the truth.
Yes, lies lead to the truth. This is a surprising story. For years, the mayor of a small Boston suburb dreaded Wednesdays. That was the day when a local weekly paper would publish shocking allegations that he was on the take, he was sexually harassing women, or even under investigation by the FBI. Friends trashed the Everett mayor on Facebook over what the Everett Leader Herald printed. This went on for years. But it turns out the paper was just printing lies. Almost everything the paper wrote about the mayor turned out to be fake, enabling him to win a $1.1 million settlement in December that finally shut down the nearly 140-year-old paper. See, such defamation victories are exceedingly rare, but the paper's editor swore in court to tell the truth and then admitted that, yeah, he fabricated several stories in an unrelenting smear campaign. But the mayor hardly had time to celebrate, now preparing for his 7th mayoral campaign. Someone is complaining to the State Office of Inspector General about bonus payments he was receiving in 2022, and it looks like some of those fake stories about him being on the take and receiving bonuses and backdoor deals may actually have a kernel of truth behind them. After a lengthy investigation, the Inspector General concluded that the mayor did collude with his finance officer and budget director to retroactively get $180,000 between the years of 2016 and 2021 as bonuses, because he's such a good guy.
The whole system, the media, the political leaders, it's all rigged.
I just love the idea. The dude that was lying about him, it turns out that he was doing the stuff, but he wasn't right about the lies. I know. I know. Alrighty, Blake Olson, sir. Awesome. That's a kick to the nuts. No, we're not drunk or built on a house of lies.
That's a kick to the nuts.
Oh, is it ever? And boy, does that hurt. Now, if you plan to slap a pair of those truck nuts on the back of your F-150 and haul your booty over to Idaho, maybe you need to slow down, because the state of Idaho, renowned for its potatoes and a lot of other cool stuff, has passed a new law that has criminalized truck nuts. Oh, yeah, and also exposing your boobies. Can't do that either. It's House Bill 270. It talks about public nudity and what can go on. People did give it funny names like the No Nipples Act, but the law states that a person will be charged with a misdemeanor if one exposes his or her genitals, exposes developed female's breasts and some other things, or any sort of products that are intended to resemble male or female genitalia.
So those dangly things off the back of a truck.
Yes, the truck nuts, and that's where truck nuts run afoul of the new law. So, yes, to prevent people from exposing their genitalia, you now cannot have the truck nuts. I just find that funny. So
if they're only if they're human, or
yes, they got to be human.
How about cow balls?
Maybe, but I don't know though, because that would be male genitalia. So I'm not sure. It doesn't outline
true.
sex,
Okay.
so I'm not sure about this.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So I guess we can't be staring at those cow udders either, but that's okay. Alrighty, now Jeff, final choice this morning. No, we're not drunk, which might be the case here, and built on a house of lies.
Built on a house of lies.
Built on a house of lies. 2 former OnlyFans subscribers are now suing the platform, trying to start a class action lawsuit, claiming they were defrauded because the people they were chatting to online weren't the actual creators. See, when OnlyFans creators get large audiences, they subcontract, so the people you're talking to that are whispering all the sweet nothings into your ear are probably
real.
just somebody else. Yeah,
Dude,
totally not real.
It always ends up on the internet in some
Yes.
buddy's basement with a 40-year-old unemployed guy.
Always does. It's probably talking to a dude if you're on the OnlyFans. So. Okay, back to you, sir. That's the end. You choose the news.
We've got Jeff Crank coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill's Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to talk with Jeff Crank about a whole lot of stuff. One, he's calling for Will Polis not to support Senate Bill 3, veto it. Don't let it pass. It's a threat to our rights here in Colorado. We'll get into that, as well as I'm going to ask him a little bit about what happened yesterday with Brittany Pedersen in Washington, D.C., and her leading an effort to vote via proxy for new parents, allowing them to not have to travel back to Washington, D.C. for 3 months after having a child. Do you think that's the right thing for a member of Congress to be able to do? Lots around that to discuss, so he'll be joining us in a little bit. We're also going to talk with Mike Koenig. Mike is the owner of Foundation Firearms. He is closing down shop here in Colorado, heading to Texas in light of these gun laws. So, lots to talk about. Lauren Boebert's going to be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour. But now is time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
30 and cloudy on Wednesday, hump day in Denver. Good morning. Expecting a high of 47 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the lefty commie Democrats came out to support their candidate. They had plenty of cash coming in for their Wisconsin State Supreme Court. George Soros pumped in some big money, and Susan Crawford defeats Brad Schimmel. And now we get ready for possible gerrymandering. Yeah, that's going to happen. Control the country through the judges. We've seen it in the past 6 months with all the lawfare and the great Newt Gingrich in D.C. on Tuesday.
Clearly, a majority of Americans believe that no single district judge should be allowed to issue a nationwide injunction. And I think that when you look, in my judgment as a historian, this is clearly a judicial coup d'etat. You don't have this many different judges issuing this many different nationwide injunctions, all of them coming from the same political ideological background.
John King, what do you, oh, look at that. A lot more red has shown up on that map of Florida's 6 since we last spoke. I guess some of those early votes weren't indicative of where the counties ultimately would end up.
Last night on CNN, so a little good news, thankfully.
No, and so the question is, number one, let's just look at Volusia County right here. It's getting closer. Can the Democrat hold the county? Is there a little bit of moral victory in that? Number two, we've now projected the race. Randy Fine is coming to Congress as a new Republican congressman.
As DJT posted on Truth Social, both Florida House seats have been won big by the Republican candidate. He said the Trump endorsement, as always, proved far greater than the Democrats' forces of evil. Congratulations to America. Cory Booker finished his filibuster, 25 hours and 5 minutes. Congratulations.
Did he go to the bathroom? How did he go to the bathroom?
I don't know.
I didn't watch this. I mean, I didn't care to watch it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. I couldn't stand it.
I'm just saying that I know that you guys probably don't have experience necessarily with this, but there's an aisle in like Walgreens in the supermarket where there's adult solutions to that. There's things you can wear.
Did he wear a diaper? Really?
Well, I'm guessing. I mean, again, this is only my weirdness inside of it, but the idea is I can't imagine. I'm not talking about dropping the deuce in your pants, but the idea of not being able to urinate for 24 hours, that's got some kidney implications there. So if he did not prepare and he just sat there and tried to hold it the entire time, dude's dumber than I thought.
Are you allowed to? Are you allowed to leave to go to the bathroom during a filibuster?
I don't.
Is that part of the rules?
I don't think so, because I would go and say, I got to take a number 2 constitutional. This is going to take me about a half an hour. I mean, that's a break I would just take. I mean, I'm just saying that if you're allowed to do that, then I think, the whole idea of speaking until you stop is kind of ruined at that point. So, again, I have no information on this. I am just talking out of the other orifice in my body that emits sound that is not my mouth. That's all I'm talking out. So I have nothing to say, but I can't imagine that he wouldn't. So,
all right. Yeah. So in light of things that are wild. Okay,
Yes.
Look at the text message from Mary from Wyoming.
Oh, what? I didn't say. Hang on here.
Sorry, Blake, to interrupt.
Oh, no, I love it.
This takes my love for Mary to an entire new level.
What does she do?
You read it?
No. No
What
way.
did it say?
You know Mary, who's
Oh
in
my
her
God,
80s,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Black woman,
Holy crap.
Mary from Wyoming, worked for the federal government for years. She calls in all the time. We love her. She writes, I had a Honda Shadow motorcycle. On the back fender had a small pair of those hanging nuts.
That is
She
fantastic.
she had a bumper sticker that said, I have a
Jeez.
pair.
Oh my God, that's just. She gets better and better every
She
time.
gets better
Every
and
day.
better
Yes.
every
She's like
day.
a fine wine. There's layers to her bouquet that we get
No
to
doubt,
appreciate on a
man.
new level all the time. Oh my God,
No
Mary, you're my
doubt.
hero.
The pride
it's
of
fantastic.
Cheyenne.
Yes. Oh,
That's
fantastic.
exactly. Mary, we love you.
Yes, we got to
I
have a
love it.
Mary from Wyoming Day. This is fantastic.
You know what? Every time this filibuster comes up, though, you bring up a good point. I always wonder that, and then I
Yes.
think about, yeah, okay, if he's on, maybe he's on a there. I didn't even look at it, but if he has a wireless microphone, you know.
Oh, that would be funny.
You know, you keep that
But
thing
you
open
can
when they
hear
go to
that.
the
Yes, you
bathroom.
can hear that though. That's the
It
thing.
says, it says no bathrooms are allowed.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think that would
So
be the
he
reason to get
held
you the
it
heck
the whole
off the.
time,
Yeah, held
man,
off.
huh?
Yeah, again, that's some kidney issues, dude. It's got to have been, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just
I give
saying
him
that
credit for that.
I watch some of the TV shows that I watch in a streamer are because they're older, because they're things like Frasier and Cheers. It's an older demographic. So I'm just saying the only reason I know this is I'm exposed to a shocking amount of adult incontinency advertisements. I see a lot of the adult diaper ads. Yes, I know.
Yeah, you do. You're
Yes.
very, very
Yes, I
knowledgeable
know.
on that
Hey,
subject.
They have some out there that actually feel like underwear and can hold almost 3 cups of liquid. And again, that's the stuff that I've picked up from watching the old TV shows at night. I'm an idiot.
Ted Cruz noticed that, when Ted Cruz did his 21-hour speech, he only sipped a glass of water.
Okay.
Others have used catheters. Wendy Davis did during her 13-hour state filibuster.
Oh, I remember
and
that, yeah.
diapers are speculated for long sessions, though not confirmed for Cory Booker's recent effort.
Yeah, because
Man,
again,
that's
they
wild.
say, you know, I'm just saying the advertisements say no leakage, they look normal, no one will know you're wearing them. These are the advertisements I'm seeing, people. This is just what I'm seeing when I'm watching the old
man.
reruns. So
I say,
yeah,
I think you should be allowed to have a big gulp cup.
yeah.
You know, behind the.
I think this is the rule: is what you have to do is it has to be big gulps, but you get one of those hats that has the funny straw and and they put the helmet on, and you get the 2 big gulps on your side, and you got to be drinking. So it's almost an endurance test. It's the idea of you can keep going as long as you don't pee your pants.
People are saying he wore a diaper. He must have walked in with it on, knowing he was going to do this.
Yeah.
And
They
then
didn't announce it.
Can anybody pick out the moment in the middle of the speech he did relieve himself?
Yeah. We need. Okay, now you guys have
may
seen.
be able to
I'm assuming you guys have seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. The Steve
Yes.
Martin vehicle, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that point in which Steve Martin is playing Rupert the Monkey Boy, and they're trying to scam that older woman, and they're sitting there at the dinner table, and he has the cork on the cork is on the end of the fork, and he's wearing the eye patch because he keeps poking himself in the eye. But he sits
Right.
there at one point. It's one of my favorite lines ever, and Steve Martin delivers it perfectly. He looks at him, and goes, "Excuse me, may I go to the bathroom?" And the guy goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Thank you." Doesn't move, does anything else, just gets a weird look on his face. That is one of my favorite
I
moments.
remember
So
that.
that's what I think Cory did. He's like,
I think
and
so,
we must
too."
remember that. Thank you. That we are here today. That's what I think happened. That's what I think happened.
Well,
It's
he
just my
does a
idea.
lot of whining
Yeah, he
in
does.
the
He did,
in the
yeah.
filibuster, and you can understand why.
Yes.
Now,
Maybe he was
after
doing the
that.
potty dance. He's like, and just like when
Right.
kids are, and Mom, I gotta go. Could be. Yes, it could be.
All right, here's Scott Jennings.
It is a feat of longevity, and I'm not sure what the point of it is. You know, he didn't stop any legislation. He didn't hold up any nominations. He said it was a moral moment.
He held up something else.
So I guess, as a Republican, I infer that he thinks half the country is immoral. And that kind of messaging to me is exactly what's been plaguing the Democrats certainly in the last election, in the last several months, is this idea that this hatefulness towards your fellow American just because they chose a different party or voted a different way.
Amy Klobuchar loved it.
2 or 3 of them stood up on the House floor and did what you did. Senator Booker, who they said no. And if 4 of them in the United States Senate, 4 of them stood up, 4 senators stood up, then we could have the discussion about, okay, let's make government work better. We're all in.
Or have the
How's that
discussion
making
on-
government work better?
It doesn't. It's all theater. But, it would, I don't know if that, I don't know. I don't think that's healthy. I don't see how that's helping you. But, oh well, he did it. Good for him. Actor Val Kilmer is dead at the age of 65. He was diagnosed with throat cancer in 2014, but recovered. His daughter said he died of pneumonia. Loveland City Council member Aaron Black was caught on tape in a verbal altercation, or on video, with a citizen and causing some controversy in the city. Black asked Dylan Kaiser to meet her at a park to discuss differences they have over issues. She showed up with at least 8 people, and I guess they were surrounding him, and at one point said, "This is Loveland, not your MAGA bleepity bleepity bleep." And then, so one councilwoman presented a motion that passed for Black to attend all meetings remotely until an investigation is complete. The second criminal who escaped ICE custody a few weeks ago has been recaptured on a bus at Colfax and Cherry Street. The U.S. Marshals Service said Gilan Vito Romero was caught with the coordination of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and he will be turned over to the marshals to face criminal charges. Man, I needed some coffee this morning, and I needed this also. This helped me get going this morning.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
Wolves are going to win it in a dramatic double overtime win on the road by 1.
T-Wolves beat the Nuggets last night 140-139 in double overtime. Avs at the Blackhawks tonight at 7:30. Rockies and the Phillies this evening at 4:45. 29 in Aurora, 28 in Arvada, 30 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue with their diapers for this long show. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A cool and unsettled stretch of weather will continue here for Denver through this work week and probably all the way through Saturday. Temperatures will be low to mid-50s today, cloudy with a few rain and snow showers around the area today and tonight, lows lower 30s. 40s and lower 50s Wednesday, a few showers of rain and snow with low to mid-40s Thursday into Thursday night, and areas of rain and snow Friday and Saturday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
We're going to be joined here in a moment by Congressman Jeff Crank. Let me tell you why you should call Mitch Flory and the Art of Granite to put together the perfect kitchen or bathroom remodel for you. 1, quality craftsmanship. Mitch is such an expert and craftsman that he can turn granite, quartz, and marble and other materials into true work of art right in your home. 2, superior service. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team's attention to details unmatched. They will listen to you and get you what you need. Number 3, great value. Mitch provides granite from his own warehouse in Denver West at wholesale prices with no markup, so you can get the most for your budget. All you got to do, mention KNUS and receive a bathroom countertop free when you purchase your fantastic new kitchen countertops. You can also get a kitchen or bathroom sink free when you purchase any countertop package. So schedule a consultation with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch. Here's the phone number, 303-386-5919. That's 303-386-5919, or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. You know, a lot of us got those early low interest rates. We're never moving with those interest rates being so low. So you got to improve the house you got. The Art of Granite are the people to talk to. Visit theartofgranite.com. Mention KNUS for all those great opportunities. All right, joining the Jeff and Bill Show, great friend of the program, Jeff Crank, represents Congressional District 5, that's the Colorado Springs area, out yesterday calling for the governor of Colorado to veto Senate Bill 3, saying radical progressive liberals in Colorado want to strip its citizens of their right to bear arms. This is not the will of the people. He joins us now to give us some insight. Good morning, Representative. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Bill. How are you guys?
We're doing just great. Glad to talk to you, but worried about Senate Bill 3. We talked to some lawmakers yesterday. They're not sure where the governor is going to go with this. Some people speculating he may just allow it to become law. Therefore, he can claim, I never really signed it, but I also didn't veto it. What do you think Governor Polis is going to do with this Senate Bill 3 that puts a lot of restrictions on the right to own a semi-automatic weapon in Colorado?
Well, you'd think that he's likely to sign it unless he gets a lot of pressure from grassroots activists calling him and telling him not to. I don't understand why Democrats would let this go through the legislature and make these tough votes, right, on this, unless they probably had talked with the governor and knew that he was either going to sign it or very likely to sign it. But that doesn't mean that grassroots pressure won't send a message to him. So I think that's very important for citizens to call the governor's office today and let them know. In fact, I may just call the governor today as well and just tell him as a citizen of Colorado that I would love for him to veto the bill. This is just another attack, and we've seen it time and time again in Colorado on from a whole host of areas. We've seen kind of this, I don't know, lack of common sense on things. But you look at this bill, isn't it to stop criminals? What criminal would go through the process that this bill sets up? Nobody. So all it's going to do is make it difficult for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves, and that is our Second Amendment right. And so this bill is an outrageous infringement upon the Second Amendment. One of the things that I've done, I've co-sponsored the Second Amendment Guarantee Act here in Congress, and it would preempt state laws like this that are more restrictive than federal law. And so, we've got to work hard to get that passed here so that we can preempt these kinds of state things. This is a right guaranteed to us in the U.S. Constitution. States don't have a right to infringe upon this, much like the state government doesn't have the right to infringe upon the First Amendment, freedom of speech rights that we all have. And so I think this is exactly the thing where Congress ought to step in and say, look, you've overstepped your bounds because this violates the U.S. Constitution.
We're talking with Representative Jeff Crank. He typically deals with federal issues. This state law, Senate Bill 3, drawing his attention, drawing Gabe Evans, Lauren Boebert, and the rest of the Republican congressional delegation here in Colorado to speak up against it because it's such a violation of our Second Amendment rights. You're talking about a Second Amendment Guarantee Act. Do you think you get it through Congress? Do you think Democrats in the Senate would support it?
Well, I don't know. There's several senators who claim, Democrat senators who claim that they're for the Second Amendment. So let's see. I don't know. But again, this is about having grassroots citizens, make those calls to the governor today. I mean, that's what's most important. But if a federal law was moving through, I would hope that gun owners across the United States would contact their federal elected officials as well and tell them that this is an important piece of legislation. I mean, this bill, Senate Bill 3, it essentially just turns over your Second Amendment rights to a county sheriff, right? And that's not even okay to me in my case, where I have a good county sheriff who opposes this bill, in Sheriff Joe Roybal. But imagine if you have a sheriff who isn't friendly to the Second Amendment and who's just going to deny citizens. It's not their right to deny. The Second Amendment gives all of us a God-given right to defend ourselves. And so this is just one of the most egregious things that I've seen.
Well, and we're hearing from sheriffs as well. They don't want to manage. They don't want to be in charge of managing everyone's Second Amendment rights. They're already stretched so thin trying to put bad guys behind jail. Now imagine having to manage the Second Amendment rights of all the citizens in their communities.
Yeah, and Jeff, isn't that really what's happened in Colorado? We're too busy micromanaging the gun rights of law-abiding citizens, and yet if you get caught with drugs, and I've gone on ride-alongs with Colorado Springs Police Department, El Paso County Sheriff's Office, there's people roaming our streets. They get caught with drugs, and they just get let go. Or sometimes they're written up with a little ticket, or they're committing crimes that are, in many cases, they're not the crime of the century, but, they break into a car. And these things aren't even being solved. These crimes aren't even being solved because we're tasking our law enforcement with ridiculous requirements like this.
That voice you recognize is Jeff Crank, longtime talk show host here in Colorado, and currently fighting the good fight. He's representing Colorado's 5th Congressional District out in D.C. for us, and appreciate the time that he's spending here at the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking about whether or not Polis will sign the gun legislation that's across his desk, giving Colorado the strictest gun laws in the nation. Now, this is not my idea. This was suggested by a fan of the show, but I'm wondering, Representative Crank, is the solution to this problem a phone call to Kim Kardashian? Does Kim just need to reach out to Governor Polis and say, please don't sign it, and then everything's fixed? Are we focused in the wrong area? Do we need to be focusing on lobbying Kim to call Polis because evidently she holds a lot of weight?
Well, maybe that's what we need. We need to employ every tactic we have, and maybe getting Kim Kardashian to call Governor Polis would be a good idea. Can't hurt, Bill, can it?
Yeah, no, I think can't at all. In some ways it can help. Yeah, why not?
Now,
that's right.
Congressman, lots of news. Colorado making lots of news over the proxy vote and Brittany Pedersen leading that effort. What are your thoughts on new parents in Congress having the ability to vote via proxy?
Yeah, well, I'm not a fan of proxy voting here in Congress. It's just a simple thing. First of all, Congress works best when we're a legislative body and we're talking to one another and we're working together. Americans decry the partisanship. There's one side versus the other. Yet things like this would make us even more of a partisan body where we're just not talking to one another. I think it's a bad idea. I also think it's unconstitutional, by the way. And that's the crux of the argument. But look, here's the thing about it is there's lots of people who take time off. Vince Fong, the congressman from California, his wife just had a baby. He took a couple of weeks off to be home with his baby. I don't think one constituent of his complained with the fact that he wasn't here voting. So nobody's saying you have to be here during that time. You can take it off. I think people expect that you do. But here's the other problem is, where does it end? Right now, originally it was for mothers who just had babies, and then they extended it to men. Well, what happens if you have a spouse who's going through an end of life issue? Do they get that same amount of time? And if you don't, do we have a rebellion on the floor to make sure that they do? And then once you have that, is it some other family member who gets sick, or caring for your mother or father who might be passing away? We have rules here. We need to follow them. We need to be here, and we need to vote. And with all due respect, there's a lot of people around America who have to continue. They do their job. They take some time off. You can do that here in Congress. You don't have to give up, your rights. But it's just one of those things that I think, as an institution, we have to stand for.
We're talking with Representative Jeff Crank, and I think that's an important distinction, right? Because you can be excused from voting, right? And it's a non-vote. Yep. What Brittany Pettersen and others wanted to do with the House change in the rules is allow somebody else to vote on their behalf while they're at home, right? Is that a difference? Did I get that right?
Well, it is true, but yes, that is true. But look, I'm opposed to even allowing proxy voting from somewhere else because look, we're members of Congress. We're trying to manage the largest economy on earth, right? We're on the board of directors of the largest economy on earth. And I just don't think you can do that by phoning it in. Would you have, at some point, if you allow proxy voting for this, are you going to have somebody who's out on a boat somewhere, stopping their boat for a minute and pulling out their ability to vote by proxy and sending their vote in? I mean, we need to be here and do our job. We said we were going to do that for the American people, and we should. This isn't an attack on people of childbearing age. People do it. There's nobody here that complained when Brittany Pettersen had her baby and was gone for a little period of time. I didn't complain. Nobody complained about her being gone, and I don't think her constituents complained. So I don't know what the issue is or the problem, but we can't ruin the institution over this. And the last thing I'd say is we saw proxy voting during COVID under Nancy Pelosi. And as far as I'm concerned, it nearly ruined the institution. There was more partisanship. There's less talking to one another. We ought to be down on the floor, Democrats and Republicans, talking to one another and building those relationships.
That's Representative Jeff Crank joining the Jeff and Bill Show, not only calling for Senate Bill 3 to fail, to be vetoed by Jared Polis to protect our constitutional rights. He's working to save the institution of Congress itself. Representative, thanks so much for taking time to join us this morning. I know you have a very busy morning, and the fact you're taking time to join us was great.
Yes, thank you.
Jeff and Bill, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate all you do, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's Representative Jeff Crank. You can follow him on X at Rep. Jeff Crank. He's going to be continuing to tweet about Senate Bill 3 there. And that's interesting. I mean, he's dealing with federal issues, right? Speaking into a state issue because he's hearing, one, from his constituents, but two, he believes now he's got to introduce the Second Amendment Guarantee Act in light of the restriction on our rights taking place here in Colorado. So.
I still think Kim Kardashian's the solution.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
And the person that texts that in, very smart.
Very smart. Yeah. And it's interesting, and I wish we had more time with him, the idea of the Second Amendment's, Guarantee Act, that what will the Democrats take and turn around and use that as a boilerplate to turn around, and what will they go after? Because if this act gets momentum and goes and gets passed through Congress and is signed, the Democrats may learn something, and what would they turn into that same issue? And I wish we had more time because
I think if it's constitutional, that makes a different argument. If you're just kind of picking things up, because for me, it's enumerated powers, right? What does the federal government have as power versus the states? And when you have the Second Amendment in the Constitution, I think it gives more weight to the federal government stepping in.
Yeah, I can see, but the idea is that this idea of, we are going to guarantee this, the idea of, all I'm going to say is the Defense of Marriage Act, that worked out swimmingly for you. That worked out well, because we now are to the point of the same-sex couples being married. So I'm just saying that these things may not necessarily, there may be some unintended consequences.
But to my point, that wasn't necessarily in the Constitution.
No, but I'm just talking about the idea of these defense of movements, that we've got to pass a law to reinforce something that's already there. That's the issue, is that has not, in my opinion, seemed to have gone so well for the people that are advocating for it. I'm just saying there seemed to be a line of unintended consequences after that seem to change, that maybe policy changes the other direction. That all I'm saying is this idea may seem like a wonderful thing right now, but it might be something a few years down the road that the people that are looking for more gun regulations and restrictions will point to. and say, here's how bad it's gotten. Here's what we need to go against. And you're giving them a rallying cry. Because if the Second Amendment is good enough, it doesn't need any help. It's in the Constitution. If it's good enough, I don't think it needs the help. I'm worried that it's going to create a hornet's nest that becomes a rallying point for those people that you do not want to get involved in the conversation or agree with.
Well, I think it clarifies national intent, especially if you can get it through the House and the Senate, that we are committed to the Second Amendment, and all these state-based efforts, particularly in Democrat states, to try to restrict the Second Amendment are not only unconstitutional, but against the will of the elected people in Congress. All right, feel free to join the conversation. Coming up in just a second, we're going to be joined by Mike Koenig. You heard his his audio yesterday. He's the owner of Foundation Firearms. He's heading out. He's done with the state, in part due to these gun-based law or these gun restriction laws here in Colorado. Going to talk with him directly. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. You heard this audio yesterday. Representative Ron Weinberg had played it. It's a local gun store owner, Mike Koenig, Foundation Firearms in Loveland. Listen to this audio again. Very powerful.
Hey guys, Mike here from Foundation Firearms. Hey, it's that last day. It's hard to say that. It's really weird to say that because I miss seeing everyone already. It's going to be really different this next couple of days for me. But I just wanted to share a little bit more, like the story and stuff. The last year and a half, I've been going through a lot. We had the building on the market. It's under contract, which is part of the reason why we're actually closing the business. And then the laws are the other part. During that year and a half, though, God gave me some good words. He told me he prepared me for this moment. He prepared me even back when I first started the business. I feel like there's somebody out there that needs to hear this verse. It stuck with me this week. It's from Joshua, and it's, be strong and courageous. Do not tremble, do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God, he is with you wherever you go, which means he's been preparing a way for me the entire time. And I think part of that has to do with this verse. I don't know how much of you guys notice stuff when you're in my shop. I have this little plaque right next to my front door. It's where I got my name from. Again, it's another verse, and it's lay no other foundation other than that, which is Jesus Christ. And that's what I believe, man. Like, you have to have Christ first in everything. And so I'm sorry if that offends some of you guys, but most of you guys are going to understand that's where I come from. And I just hope that it reaches your heart. And you guys, I will miss every single one of you. You have some incredible customers, some incredible friends. And I just want to say thanks. So with that, I'm signing off. Thanks.
Now, joining the Jeff and Bill Show is the Mike you heard in that video, Mike Koenig, founder of Foundation Firearms. Mike, first of all, I want to thank you so much for your testimony. I thought that was beautiful. You did a great job reflecting Christ there. And Mike, we wanted to talk to you because it seems like in that video, it seems like these laws are really impacting gun store owners, and wanted to get your perspective. And thanks for joining us this morning, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff and Bill.
Heartbreaking to hear that. You talk a little bit about the sale of the business and the opportunity there, but tell us about how the laws and maybe even Senate Bill 3 and some other things that are coming from the state legislature are getting to gun shop owners at this point where they're heading out of the state.
Yeah. I've been in business for 14 years, almost 14 years, I should say, just coming up on that. Things have changed so much and so drastically fast. It's insane, just especially the last couple of years. It started probably 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever they came out with the 3-day wait. Honestly, for us here in our shop, we had traffic from Denver, Pueblo, Golden, Western Slope, whatever, driving to our shop every single day because our prices were so much cheaper than the places in Denver and stuff like that. So they would actually drive here and purchase. Fast forward, they do the 3-day wait. Now you lost, 25% of the business right off the top just because people won't drive twice, especially when it's 2 and 3 hours, and people's time and people's gas money and everything else is worth something. And that's, it affects us. You go on, but beyond that, the thing that affected me massive too that same year was they passed the liability law, which I didn't even understand what the heck is going on. Like, there's literally a law on the books that says you can't sue a firearms dealer, but we made a law that says you can sue a firearms dealer and his employees. So it makes no sense at all. And all these little things are just adding up. And I keep telling, like I was telling Ron the other day, I was like, it's like the death of 1,000 cuts is what it is. And that's what they're doing to us as shop owners. And I get it that what they're trying to do, but they're going about it completely the wrong direction. They're not doing anything to the criminals. They're only affecting people like myself and the guys that are purchasing firearms from us.
We're talking with Mike Koenig. He's the owner of Foundation Firearms, and that was the sense we got from Representative Ron Weinberg yesterday on the program, was that, well, this is intentional. in their mind, the gun shop owner is a real problem. We need to address that because, somebody who's a criminal is not going to follow these steps already. By definition, they're people that ignore the law. So the idea that they're, a 3-day waiting period, background checks, now we're going to go through this big system where we have to take a 2-day class, pass a test at 90%, all this stuff. Oh, gosh, well, I guess now maybe I won't buy the semi-automatic weapon. They've already proven that they don't follow laws and rules, so they're just going to get it another way. I think the big concern, Mike, is that these rules are just going to go after the very people that follow rules, like yourself. And you seem to be an example of somebody that's getting out of town. I mean, at this point, Ron told us yesterday you're just going to head to a different state. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a thought. That's a thought process. I mean, like we went and visited a couple of places, but at one in particular, and in Texas there, and I mean, we enjoyed it. And my parents lived down there for 20 years, and they enjoyed it. And I've been in Loveland for 40 years. My wife's been here for 50 years. The state of Colorado does not represent the state of Colorado anymore. It's not representing me as a person. And the city of Loveland, if you're paying attention to the news, it's chaos in the city council here. So, I mean, it's craziness. But back to what you just said, though, too, the background checks and stuff like that. The thing that's crazy to me is the Democrats, the liberals, whoever, they are constantly calling for a universal background check. That is what we already have in the 4473. It's done by the ATF. So I don't understand the wording of that. And it can't be universal if it's different in every single state, let alone counties doing different stuff, like Boulder County doing different stuff than Larimer County.
A lot of different rules out there, but it doesn't seem like the respect for the Second Amendment and the rights and abilities of people to defend themselves, to arm themselves, is being respected. We're talking to Mike Koenig. He's the owner of Foundation Firearms. You heard the audio. Mike, I want to just ask you, like you just talked, 40 years here in Colorado. You love the state. You are a law-abiding gun shop owner. You respect the Second Amendment. Tell me what all these rules are doing to your ability to live out your life, what you're hearing from the people that come into your shop. And I imagine they're not going, yay, all right, we're really going after the criminals this time. It feels like it's just again and again more restrictions on the very people that already follow the rules themselves. Talk to us about what you're hearing from people in your shop.
Yeah, a lot of people. So where we live, there's a Shields just down the street from my shop, and it's in a different tax area, and it's an extra 2% tax there. And people constantly come to my shop and complain about that 2% tax, and they've just passed that 6.5% tax that just went into effect yesterday, and I'm like, what the heck is that going to do to the market? There's no way you're going to see that, I don't think, for probably 2 or 3 months, but I can tell you it's going to stop people from buying stuff randomly. On $1,000, you're talking that's $65. So tack that on with the other, like our tax here is $6.7, so that's, $130 whatever dollars, and it's just crazy how fast stuff is going to add up. And I think that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to get people to slow down and stop and rethink. But you add in the economy from like the last couple of years. Last year was one of the worst years I've ever had in my entire business. And people needed money for gas and groceries. They literally wouldn't stop, and they wouldn't even buy the spontaneous buys anymore.
I think it's very clear that these laws are driving the wrong people out, the people that want to follow the rules. Good gun shop owners like Mike Koenig, Foundation Firearms. Mike, thank you so much for, first of all, joining us this morning, but powerful testimony. Thank you for sharing your faith so publicly, and great to spend some time with you this morning. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call and letting me speak.
Yeah, the way I see it, when it comes to these gun debates, there's 3 groups here. Okay, you have criminals, you have law-abiding citizens, and you have the government. What this rule does What this law does right now is it targets the law-abiding citizens. What Democrats have done is gone after that group of people. It's not going to stop criminals from getting guns. It's sure as heck not going to stop the government. It never seems like they're trying to reduce the stockpile that the government has. These rules go after the law-abiding citizens. You see it in Mike's video. You heard it today during our interview. Senate Bill 3 needs to be vetoed, and we need people to get out there and call the governor's office. All right, we'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's get to the phone lines. Francis Golden. Good morning, Francis.
Hey, guys. Hey, so Brittany Pedersen doesn't want to be physically present to do her job. Let me ask you this. There's a presumption here that she was ever actually present mentally to do her job. And I know Jeff has seen her in action. I've had that pleasure a couple times. She, in the state legislature, she was constantly messing on her phone, dipping out of meetings. She never asked any questions at all and never had any engagement. And now she wants to do all of that contribution remotely. Here's a problem that I see with all of this, is that when you let anybody, whether it's Brittany or anybody else, do this remotely, it turns into a form of drone warfare. And the last thing these shiftless bums in legislatures need to do is to be remote. They should actually be looking across the aisle, face to face, pressing flesh, listening to arguments, and doing their job. You don't need somebody just sitting in the basement with some proxy vote or something else going on.
Now, Francis, got a question for you.
People there.
Now, I appreciate the sentiment, but I got a question, because you know how this station rolls and the show rolls. I like to make things a little bit difficult. Based on that proposal, the idea of you're not there, you're not doing the job, you're not getting the work done, does that mean that we should not offer maternity leave to new parents? Because they're not there, they're not doing the job.
I think you should. I think there's exceptions. I can just see this getting abused is what I'm concerned about.
And to Jeff Crank's point, you can take time off. You can take it as much time as you want off. You can't vote remotely.
Isn't that just? It seems to me this is part of the job description. If you cannot fit the job description, don't ask for the job. And if you, at some point and stage in your life, feel that you may not be able to manage all of this or may have other obligations, then just don't run then.
Now,
do something else.
Now, Francis, if I wanted to pick up that argument and place it into a slightly different context, aren't you making the liberal argument technically for abortion? I mean, if you're talking about family values, shouldn't you want to encourage these people to start a family, to work with families?
Just don't become a member of Congress.
Yeah, so the issue is if you want to go to Congress, don't have a family. That's the message we're here, that's what I'm hearing.
Or there are trade-offs, and there's real questions.
There's no family.
As to whether or not you can actually serve the people of your community well and also be at home serving your kids as well. Sometimes in life you just can't do it all.
Same thing with maternity
Maybe
leave.
you just can't do it all. All right. We'll continue. I appreciate it, Francis. Thanks, got Lauren Boebert coming up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's your president. We're off and running. We got an entire hour planned for you of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Yesterday, Representative Lauren Boebert introduces a resolution condemning domestic terrorist attacks against Tesla and Elon Musk. She introduced a House resolution condemning the wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla dealerships. Since President Trump tasked Elon Musk to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, there's been a disturbing trend of attacks targeting Tesla cars and dealerships, including multiple attacks on the Loveland, Colorado Tesla dealership in her district, Colorado's 4th Congressional District. It was joined by a number of other folks, including Andy Biggs, Byron Donalds, Brandon Gill, Anna Paulina Luna, Nancy Mace, and many others that joined along with her in doing this. She said the definition of terrorism is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation in the pursuit of political aims. This is exactly what has been going on across the country at Tesla dealerships, and it is what innocent Americans who choose Tesla as their preferred vehicles are facing in the wake of violence from radical left-wing domestic terrorists who hate President Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Her House resolution makes it clear where all members of Congress stand. Do they condemn domestic terrorism against Tesla, or do they endorse it completely? The American people deserve to know where their representatives stand when it comes to condemning domestic terrorism. And she lists a big, long list of background of all the different attacks that are taking place here in America. So we're going to get a chance to talk with her in a little bit. But now it's time for news with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. 34 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 47 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. We are expecting Lauren Boebert to join the show, and when she calls in, Jeff will just chime in here and they can continue with the interview. Our top story, it's Liberation Day in America, and DJT is passionate about tariffs, speaking this morning.
A tariff is a beautiful thing, but it's got a bad image. It needs you to fix the image. A tariff, we stop wars with tariffs. No. I mean, I had cases where I told a country they were being very aggressive with another country. It had nothing to do with us. I just don't like seeing dead people, okay? And they were going to go to war. And I said, if you go to war, and they do a lot of business with the United States, I'm putting 100% tariff on everything you do, any business you do with us. No, this has nothing to do. I said, it does have. I stopped a war. Will I get Nobel Prizes? Never. I mean, look what we did with the Abraham Accords, how good that was. But you can stop wars with tariffs.
Representative Byron Donalds, who's running for governor of Florida, had to educate CNN this morning concerning government waste, fraud, and spending and economics.
As opposed to following the same terrible policies of the previous administration and the Democrats writ large of just subsidizing industries and raising the debt of the United States. That is not the way that you actually build an economy. There's an old saying in finance: you can make markets jump, but you can't make them fly. And when you follow the old way, the Biden-Obama way of just subsidizing industries, yeah, you make them jump. You can make people feel good in the interim, but it's not sustainable over the long term. Donald Trump is looking at the long-term financial outlook for every American, and that's why we're starting today with Liberation Day.
The Second Amendment continues to be attacked here in Colorado with the latest bill. Jeff Crank joined Jeff and Billy last hour.
This bill, Senate Bill 3, it essentially just turns over your Second Amendment rights to a county sheriff, right? And that's not even okay to me in my case, where I have a good county sheriff who opposes this bill in Sheriff Joe Roybal. But imagine if you have a sheriff who isn't friendly to the Second Amendment and who's just going to deny citizens. It's not their right to deny. The Second Amendment gives all of us a God-given right to defend ourselves. And so this is just one of the most egregious things that I've seen.
The lefty commie Democrats supported their candidate for Wisconsin State Supreme Court last night. George Soros pumped in big money, and Susan Crawford defeats Brad Schimmel. And now, hey, guess what? We get ready for gerrymandering. Control the country through the judges. We've seen it all the past 6 months, at least the last 6 months, with all the lawfare and the great Newt Gingrich on Capitol Hill on Tuesday.
Clearly, a majority of Americans believe that no single district judge should be allowed to issue a nationwide injunction. And I think that when you look, in my judgment as a historian, this is clearly a judicial coup d'etat. You don't have this many different judges issuing this many different nationwide injunctions, all of them coming from the same political ideological background.
John King, what do you? Oh, look at that! A lot more red has shown up on that map of Florida's 6 since we last spoke. I guess some of those early votes weren't indicative of where the counties ultimately would end up.
Last night on CNN, the good news, DJT posted on Truth Social, both Florida House seats have been won big by the Republican candidate. He said the Trump endorsement, as always, proved far greater than the Democrats' forces of evil. Congratulations to America. Actor Val Kilmer is dead at the age of 65. He was diagnosed with throat cancer in 2014, but recovered. And then his daughter said that he died of pneumonia a couple of days ago. Reports are saying that at least 9 student visas in Colorado were among the 300 international visas to the U.S. canceled. The University of Colorado confirmed that 4 of its international students who were attending on F1 visas had their visas revoked. CSU said that 5 of its international students were impacted.
Wolves are going to win it in a dramatic double overtime win on the road by 1.
Minnesota over the Nuggets last night, 140-139. What a game in double overtime. The Avalanche and Blackhawks tonight at 7:30. The Rockies at the Phillies this evening at 4:45. First pitch. Snow is forecast for opening day on Friday.
Now, Blake, do you think they're going to have opening day if there's snow?
Well, they'll have that tarp on there, and more than likely it'll be a wet snow, and they'll see if they can get it in. But it will be delayed. It'll be one of those, let's see, first pitch is 2:05 maybe, I think, and they'll probably delay it 8-9 hours, and then opening day will be at night. I don't know.
Just go, because I got tickets. I paid.
Get ready to wait, buddy.
I mean, we'll be in the club level because we anticipated. I always go with my buddy, the Chancellor of CCU, Don Sweeting, and we went one time. It was really cold, so we're like, all right, let's just get club, make sure we can go inside in case it's cold. But why not just contact them and go, look, guys, it's going to be bad weather. We'll make it up to you in June.
Yeah, they have so many games. They hate postponing.
I don't want to sit in the cold.
I haven't looked at the weather forecast.
That's what Broncos games are for.
Yeah, baseball's weird though, man. I mean, they'll delay that thing for 10, 12 hours if it's an early start. And then, I guess they could have a doubleheader on Saturday, opening day, but I don't know what the weather's going to be like this weekend either. I haven't checked it out. Hey, is that an Indians jersey you're wearing?
Oh, dude, you're going to love this. You're going to love
nice.
this. All right, Indians, right? I'm going to turn around. I got to take off my ears here. Hold on.
Okay. I love that one.
You see that?
Let me see.
Do you know who Vaughn is?
Oh, yeah.
That's
is that
from
his jersey?
That's from the show Major League.
Oh, from Major League. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got the delayed video here, so now I'm seeing.
From
That's
the movie
great.
Major League.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's cool, man. That is one of the great jerseys right there. Love it. Love it. All right. Let's see. I already told you that it's 34 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Something about you two. I don't know what it is. I mean, I woke up one day and it's like, wait a minute, this little son of a is entertaining as hell.
Thank you
and
so much.
even though he's full of crap,
I deserve that.
it's just the way he's wired. I mean, you guys work good together.
All right. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A cool and unsettled stretch of weather will continue here for Denver through this work week and probably all the way through Saturday. Temperatures will be low to mid-50s today, cloudy with a few rain and snow showers around the area today and tonight, lows lower 30s. 40s and lower 50s Wednesday, a few showers of rain and snow with low to mid-40s Thursday into Thursday night and areas of rain and snow Friday and Saturday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We are still trying to track down Representative Lauren Boebert. Her schedule has gotten complicated this morning. We're still trying to carve out time that she can join us, so stand by. We'll get to Jack's phone call here in just a second, but while you and I have a brief moment, I want to chat with you about my friends at Wound Care Associates of Colorado. I'm really excited that we're working with them here on the Jeff and Bill Show. One, because they are helping out my youngest child and my family, but more importantly, because of the incredible care they can give to you and your family members, because Wound Care Associates of Colorado is changing the game as far as treating your chronic wound, your slow-healing cut, your diabetic ulcer, and pressure sores. They come at it differently than anybody else here in the state, and let me tell you why you need to talk to them. First of all, improved healing outcomes. There are many, many, many wound care treatment facilities out there that just want to maintain your wound, meaning leaving it open. Let's see what happens. We're going to keep cleaning it out, but we're going to let it slowly do its own thing. No. You wouldn't accept that if they said, hey, we're going to see how this cancer goes and just maintain it. No. Same thing with a broken arm or leg. No. Yes, I know that you have lost an eyeball, but we're just, no. We need to fix the problem here, Doc. That's the issue. And that's what Wound Care Associates of Colorado promises to you. That it's going to be faster healing and promote better outcomes because they understand that torn skin and tissue is the perfect way for dirt, germs, and bacteria to get access to your body. It happened to my aunt years ago. She had a chronic slow-healing wound, and MRSA got access to her body because of it was kept open. And she got the infection. She was in the hospital for a while. And because of that, she ended up with some amputations and some negative impact on her health. It was an awful deal. And when my youngest child had a slight surgery recently and the incision wasn't healing up, it was one of those slow healing wounds. Well, you know who I went out and reached to? I made one phone call to Wound Care Associates of Colorado because of their improved healing outcomes. Now, let me tell you something else. This is why you talk to them as well, because they go with that old school house call concierge service. You get that expensive concierge service without the expensive price. Their wound certified nurse practitioner comes to your house and takes care of your wound on your schedule. That's what they do. So again, you contact Wound Care Associates of Colorado at coloradowound.com, coloradowound.com. They set up a appointment for you at your house. They come to you, they provide the treatment you need in the comfort, care, and privacy of your own home, and they guarantee improved healing outcomes. So you got to reach out to my friends at Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Wound Care Associates of Colorado at coloradowound.com, coloradowound.com. When I needed this taken care of in my own family, it's happening right now. I made one phone call. I didn't mess around with anybody else. I only went with the best because I know how they operate and I know what they're going to do. They have the best outcomes in the entire game. Don't mess around with anybody else. Anybody in your family, a slow healing cut, diabetic ulcer, pressure sore, coloradowound.com, coloradowound.com. And when you talk to Wound Care Associates of Colorado, tell them you heard about him here on the Jeff and Bill Show because it helps us out. Back to you, sir.
That's great to hear. Bill is going to pull her up right now, and we're going to talk with Representative Lauren Boebert. She introduced a resolution condemning domestic terrorist attacks against Tesla and Elon Musk. She points out members of the Democrat Party have made calls for their supporters to incite and engage in domestic terrorism by attacking Tesla vehicles and facilities to protest Elon Musk. Anti-Tesla incidents have happened in at least 9 states involving arson, gunfire, and vandalism. At least 80 reported cases of vandalism or arson of Tesla vehicles have taken place throughout the United States and Canada, and at least 10 Tesla dealerships, charging stations, and facilities have been hit by vandals. She joins us now to give us insight. Representative Boebert, we know you have a very busy morning. Thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning. It is wonderful to be here with y'all, and it's really great to explain to folks exactly what terrorism is, because that's what we're seeing at these Tesla dealerships, and it's kind of amazing how many folks will agree that the act of destroying someone's property is terrorism, but then they don't want to say that attacking an actual Tesla vehicle is, because Tesla is Elon Musk.
Yeah, it's shocking to me how much they've changed, and people are now pulling up videos from just even 2-3 years ago of Democrats praising Elon Musk. Oh, he's this wonderful guy. He's doing these great things, and now they're just not just standing by, but almost encouraging this type of terrorism against Elon Musk. Now, your hope is to get a vote out of this resolution, right? You're going to take it to the floor because you want to get Democrats on record condemning the terrorism against Elon Musk and Tesla.
That's exactly right. So the same folks who were praising Elon Musk just a few years ago, the same folks that were praising Donald Trump even a few years before that, are now setting fire to vehicles, and they are protesting business owners, stores who are selling Tesla. This isn't hurt Elon Musk. This is hurting small business owners and business owners in our communities. The Loveland Tesla store has been hit 5 times, and I have not heard Democrats come out and condemn this. I'm not hearing Democrats from Colorado stand up and say, this is wrong, this is domestic terrorism. We took an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and truly just terrorism is the unlawful use of violence, threats, or intimidation, especially against civilians, to achieve political, ideological, or religious objectives. And so this absolutely is terrorism. People are being terrorized in their communities to create fear, disrupt societies, and even coerce governments into specific actions. So this needs to be something that we can all say it's wrong. We're going to condemn this. There should have been something like this for the riots we saw in 2020 when cities were being burned down. And now Democrats are on repeat, and they're back to their Molotov cocktails rather than focus on getting our country unified and in the right direction.
We're talking with Representative Lauren Boebert. She's introduced a resolution condemning domestic terrorist attacks against Tesla and Elon Musk. And I think, for those of us that saw the prosecution that took place around January 6th, it seemed like Democrats were willing to go inch by inch through every video to find anybody that did anything around January 6th. And then when it came to the BLM riots, or for instance, what happened here in Colorado, where someone shot a gun at the Capitol here in Denver, no one ever arrested for that. And then again, in this case, where you have the targeting of Tesla dealerships and car owners, Democrats are like, meh, well, I guess we'll just let that stuff go. Meanwhile, if you were a praying grandma in January 6th, we made sure to prosecute the crap out of you.
That's exactly right. Grandmas were absolutely labeled as domestic terrorists. Moms and dads showing up to school board meetings to voice their opinions. Catholics were were classified as domestic terrorism, terrorists. And this is something, as you said, that they do not want to pay any attention to, give any moment of truth to, really. They're not going through the films to see who this is, but luckily we are. And the Teslas are loaded with cameras. We're seeing all of this. And I'm glad that these folks are getting caught. There have been prosecutions in Loveland, Colorado, and throughout Colorado. So this is, I'm glad that folks are really paying the price for it, but it can't be accepted as normal. It can't be accepted as normal to attack someone's personal property and set it on fire. I mean, this world is crazy enough. And even now with our majorities, we're fighting over if women can sit at home on their sofas and vote or not. So much so that we aren't even voting today as a whole because there's a few folks who say, well, I signed up for this job, but I'm not going to go all the way to D.C. to do it all the time.
Well, and I want to ask you about that because it's making a lot of news here in Colorado. We are talking with Representative Lauren Boebert. Now, Representative Brittany Pedersen, who represents the kind of Jeffco Lakewood area, has led an effort to be able to vote remotely, vote via proxy. We had Jeff Crank on earlier. Jeff pointed out, look, if you want to take time off, you're able to do that in Congress. What this will allow people to do is vote from a boat in Cancun. Tell us why you, and particularly, I think you have an important voice in this, you're a mother. Why you would not support what Brittany Pedersen is trying to do?
Yes, I think the sentiment behind it is fair. However, we chose to do this. We all ran campaigns and had elections where we had hundreds of thousands of people that trust us to go to Washington, D.C. and vote for them. And that is a part of our Democrat process. They all come together, elect us, send us there, and a part of our constitutional republic is we are going to cast our vote in your name, basically. And so it's really important to be there. And I get it. I am a mom. I have 4 boys. I have my grandson. Things come up, but that doesn't mean I can just sit at home. When I signed up for this, I was never in the mindset of, well, I'm just going to do this job from Colorado. If you need to miss a vote, you need to miss a vote. I showed up to Congress when there was proxy voting, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good for building relationships in Washington, D.C., forming coalitions. I never saw my Democrat colleagues. It was really easy to not like one another and to continue to just have arguments without conversation because no one was there. And now once we got rid of that, that's when relationships were forming again. And I even built relationships with some of our Democrat colleagues here in Colorado because we were there doing the people's work that we were elected to do. Now, I've also been a business owner. My folks couldn't do their job from home. They couldn't make burgers by proxy or serve our customers by proxy. But one thing I did do, I had an employee who wanted to come back to work when her baby was 4 weeks old, and I let her bring her baby to work. Currently, in my office, I have a woman who brings her children to work, and she's able to sit in her office with them. And if you have a place of a business where you're able to do that, I think that's wonderful. That is pro-family. If it's not a disruption, and in Congress, we could bring our babies to work. I brought my grandson, and even Brittany Pedersen brings her baby to work. We can do the job. I don't think that we need to open Pandora's box with proxy voting and allow folks to vote from anywhere in the world without accountability.
You're listening to Lauren Boebert, representative for Colorado's 4th Congressional District. Thank you so much for your time today, Representative Boebert. I want to go back just for a second to the Tesla initiative that you were talking about, and I just want to outline. It seems like you were doing it, but I want to kind of put a pin in it. I want to make sure you're drawing a distinction, correct, between the protesters and the vandals, the people that are attacking an individual vehicle or a dealership. You're not lumping them all together. I want to clarify. It seems like you're okay with protests as long as they are not violent. As soon as you start breaking cars, as soon as you start lighting things on fire, whether that be at a dealership or in front of someone's home, it crosses the line, and that's what your measure is focused on, correct?
Bill, thank you for clarifying that point. That's absolutely correct. We do have a constitutional right to have peaceful protests, and not mostly peaceful protests, as we've seen in the past, where you can burn down a building and have reporters stand in front of it and say, yeah, well, it's mostly peaceful. No, any violence should be condemned, and that's what we are doing. That's what my legislation is for, to condemn these violent acts of vandalism that are taking place. But, there's also folks who are in protest who are calling for more of the vandalism. There are folks online who are calling, certainly there are death threats, but calling for more of it. I saw in the news last night a woman saying that she has to stop herself from keying a Tesla every time she sees it. And I'm like, there's something not right there.
That's an impulse control problem.
You gotta have some self-control. Yes.
Yes. Now, Representative Boebert, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of convicting some of these vandals, arsonists, under a domestic terrorism label. And what I'm worried about is, okay, we do the due diligence, we get them put behind bars. Much like what happened with some of the January 6th protesters that were convicted of seditious conspiracy that Trump has pardoned, what prevents the next president that is a Democrat in the White House from pardoning these Tesla terrorists?
Well, there isn't anything that would prevent that. And, that's elections have consequences. And so we have to be diligent in our elections. We're seeing this throughout the country with special elections. We won 2 seats in Florida. We won a very important a case in Wisconsin. Voters said we want voter ID in Wisconsin, but also we lost that Supreme Court race there in Wisconsin. And so we can't rely on President Trump to be at the top of the ticket in midterm elections. We have got to show up. We've got to do our part. The Republican Party has got to unite, no matter what you think of somebody's personality or their hairstyle or what part of Colorado they're from. If we're Republicans, we are on the same team, and we've got to work to get Republicans elected. So certainly a Democrat president could issue pardons, but I also think that it wouldn't be quite to the same effect as President Trump. President Trump was pardoning folks who were in jail without due process or for far too long, or their charges were just absolutely extreme, trespassing charges or disrupting Congress. And, that wasn't the case for all of them. There were certainly some of them that had some charges, and President Trump just issued a blanket pardon for all and said, I've seen rapists and murderers in jail for less time. These folks have served their time. It's time for them to get out.
Talking with Representative Lauren Boebert. Very busy day today. We appreciate you taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show. And thank you for being in Washington, D.C. and being present. We appreciate it. All right. We'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Boy, it's been a busy day. Jeff Crank and Lauren Boebert both calling in, both against the vote via proxy, vote remotely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I think they've made some good arguments. Lauren pointing out, look, you know what you're signing up for. It's not like you get airdropped into this job. And part of the success of this job is interacting with people. And even Suzanne was pointing out that Lauren Boebert's built a friendship with Jamie Raskin. And Jamie saying that Lauren was probably the most concerned colleague he had when he was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah. And I think
that matters when you're writing laws.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Those friendships.
I think we've
matter.
talked about that before, that part of what we've lost inside of Washington, and you have a front row seat to this, is the idea that by living there, by spending more time there, you would have your own kids would be on the same soccer teams, the same t-ball teams, and you would see each other at restaurants, and you'd go out to dinner afterwards. And developing that friendly relationship, but understanding you disagree is wait, there's an example I'm thinking of. This show right here. Yeah, how this can actually work, where you disagree, but you can find some agreement, and you can still be friends at the end of the day. So yeah.
And look, it's a hard job.
Yes, it is.
And I'll go here.
Yeah.
Because this is a conversation my wife and I have had many times, because we're both in politics, and we get the question all the time: are you going to run for office? Are you going to run for office? And we've made it as a family rule, not till the kids are out of the house. And
so you're saying you just need a few of them to run away.
Yeah, right. Right.
That's all we need, and then we're good. Yes.
And people make different decisions. But the reason we've made that decision, I don't think it's going to be me that runs for office. I actually think my wife is going to do it, and she's going to be fantastic at it.
After this show, there's no way you can.
Yeah, right.
I have tarnished
and I'm not
that
sure
forever.
I want to. But my wife was, she's a planning commissioner, and she was at a planning commission meeting till like 10, 11 o'clock at night last night. And that's just basic little volunteering in your county. That's not even an elected position. So when you get elected, you have a job to serve people, and it's a very demanding job. And not everybody makes this decision, but I'm going to tell you what we have decided to do as people who have watched from the inside politics for the last 20 years. And Bill, you two have talked about the amazing jobs you could have had in some of the other districts, cities.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Both my wife and I have passed on some really nice opportunities because we didn't want to pick up and move the kids at that time. Yeah, absolutely.
And so you just go, all right, it's a season. And the season we're in right now, our kids are preeminent. They just take top priority. Now, can I just still get to be involved in politics and shape things and be involved in community? Absolutely. That's why I love this job, is it fulfills that passion of mine to drive an agenda forward in the public square, and I get to do it on radio, and people get to listen, and we have conversations, and I love that. Now, could we do elected official stuff and this? Yeah, maybe, but I think there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs in every decision in life, and the trade-off we're making right now is our kids are number one. I get to go home at 11 o'clock during the day. I'm there for all of their activities in the afternoon. And people are not relying on me to represent them either down at the state capitol or in Washington, D.C. I don't carry that burden. I don't. I'm done with this. I do show plan in the afternoons, and I hang out with my kids. And I'm very content in this. And I'm not sure it's right to look at a job like the demands of being a member of Congress, where you're representing, what is it, like 300,000 people in your district or something like that? And your job is to be in Washington, D.C., voting on budget issues, running bills, serving on committees, doing all that, and then trying to raise a family at the same time. There's just going to be... There's going to be cutoffs and sacrifices.
I come at it a little bit differently, not surprisingly. I just got the shows wired. I look for, as far as the proxy voting, I would look for a limited time frame, and it would be focused on starting a family. The idea of a maternity leave, I think that would be reasonable, because
it's a 12-week.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think it's a limited amount of time.
Yeah,
I think it should be focused on starting a new family, and I also would put into it something where there is a congressional record that is kept based on who you're giving the proxy vote to, and your position on it. It's not just, I give it to you, John, go ahead and vote how you want. No, there would be a record that would have to be kept in order to make sure that I know you're not just abdicating this responsibility, that you're still engaged.
But why not just move your family to D.C.? Like Lauren Boebert pointed out, you can move your family to D.C., you can live there. That's the way it kind of used to be.
For me, the idea
other
is,
members of Congress that have kids in Colorado, I believe Gabe Evans has moved his family to D.C.
The thing for me is that's cost, and the only reason that I hesitate to say just move your kids to D.C. because I believe that creates a barrier that only people that already have an amount of wealth would have the ability to do that. So I think that you funnel out individuals that would not be able to afford, even with the nice salary you get and evidently the genius learning about how to trade stock. Even with that, a big, huge step up.
Millions of dollars.
Exactly. So that's kind of undue for me. The other part is, and I like how you described the difficulty inside of Congress, but however, last time I checked, they're there on average like 3 days a week is when they're in session, and they're not even in
It's a
session.
long place to fly,
and they're not even in session 52 weeks out of the year.
Right.
So
and it's
what
not
I look
like
at is
she's from Cortez, Colorado either.
Yeah,
you got to take multiple.
That's the thing for me.
That
If your job as it exists right now only means you have to show up in the office 3 days a week, stop bitching about proxy voting for family leave. I don't want someone taking long vacations and going off and say, hey, my family and I want to go to the Caribbean for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to vote off this ship. No.
Yes.
But a limited amount to start families, I can
understand
get
that. I mean, it's personal. It involves families.
Yep.
It involves work. And it involves the kind of cultural belief that you can do it all, which I don't think you can.
No, you can't.
I think you have to make priorities, and some people are going to choose other priorities. But again, the voters could go, look, we want somebody that's going to be there full time. Brittany Pedersen, you're out of here. I don't think they will over this. I don't think it's that big of an issue that voters will push her out.
And just a reminder, full time is 3 days a week and not 52 weeks out of the year.
I do want to point out that she's collecting her salary from tax dollars. Her husband, Ian Silveri, has collected his salary from tax dollars.
Yes.
And they are now working at home. Boy, what it is to be a Democrat in this state. Pretty nice out there. All right, I do want to talk about her resolution, Representative Lauren Boebert's resolution, domestic terrorist attacks in Tesla and Elon Musk. Here's a question I want to raise for you. Okay, so Democrats went out there and said, January 6th is domestic terrorism. What happened on January guns because we went through, some type of training program where they have to score a 90% on a test? Give me a break. No, this is all about people like you, Jack. Now, Jack, you're up in Wyoming. I imagine people are just going to buy guns up there now.
No, there's no restrictions whatsoever. I also wanted to, if I was going to go to that show, I wanted to sell all my 12-gauge reloading presses, all my once-fired shells, which, people that shoot targets a lot would buy that. No, none of that's allowed in Colorado. Well, guess what? Every bit of it's allowed in Wyoming. They don't ask any questions. They couldn't care less. But here's the difference. The kind of guns I have are pretty expensive, and there's a much more sophisticated amount of people in Colorado that would be looking for and would be willing to buy these guns. Some of these guns, they're not real expensive, but they're $6,000-$7,000 guns. I've got some that are $70,000. Okay, but in Wyoming, we don't have that kind of sophistication, and I don't think many people would buy these upper level guns. But the whole purpose of it is to dampen your ability to sell a gun. They treat every gun like it's the one that's going to rob a bank tomorrow. That's what they're doing, and it's inconvenient to people like me. And there's only one answer to it: don't ever let a Democrat win an election again. That's the only answer to it.
From your mouth to God's ears, Jack. Thanks so much. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Bill, you ever seen Shenyun? I need to go see it.
No, I've got family members have, but the one place I will not be going is the Boyles Theater. Sorry, we just changed that. That's
we got to change. Thank you.
Yes, we did, and that's local voice Chris Carroll who did that one because Jeff and the funny thing is, just yesterday, Jeff and I were talking off air about the Shenyun ad and how the voiceover guy at the end says the Boyles Theater. And you're like, no, not even close. It's not pronounced, and it went like that for a long time. So it's basically an example of them going out of market in order to have someone read, and then you just go across. It's a voiceover guy that gets a list of cities, and so he sits there and says, "Coming to Chicago at the Theater from March 17th to 24th."
Yep.
Coming to the Boyles Theater in Denver from April. Yeah, that's all he does. Yeah.
It's
so
like
that's
when
what he's
folks
doing.
go Westminster.
Yes, Westminster.
Westminster.
Yes.
There's one,
Yes.
you're adding an I. It's
Yes.
Westminster.
Or the Arvada. Love that one. I've heard that one too. Yeah.
Buena Vista?
Yeah,
no,
Buena Vista,
it's
yeah.
Buena Vista
Exactly.
if you're from those parts.
Yeah, but it was nice to hear. So yeah, we changed that up. That's local dude Chris Carroll doing the heavy lifting to make sure it's not the
that sounds really cool.
Boyles Theater.
Shenyun.
It's
Seems
visually
interesting.
it is spectacular.
Yeah.
It is absolutely spectacular.
So it's actually
Yeah.
this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm looking at the tickets right now.
I've got family that has gone and they really enjoyed it. They said it's a lot of fun. Although a little propaganda-y too. Just saying.
Propaganda-y?
Yeah, the entire reason they're out there is to push back against against China. They've got
that
there's a whole
sounds like
message.
my kind of
I know.
people.
Yeah, it'll be fine for you. Yeah, I know, but there's a whole propaganda thing wrapped up inside of it, so it's fun to watch and see. Yeah.
Unless you're a communist,
Oh yeah,
you'll probably
absolutely.
appreciate
Yeah.
it.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's part of the it's part of what you're seeing.
I
baked
noticed
in.
that
Yeah.
ad too, where it's like before communism.
Yes,
I was
that's part
like,
of it.
Man,
Yes.
this is my people.
Yeah, because part of it is about this is how beautiful China was beforehand. And yeah, they go through it, etc. Although in another life years ago, a couple of years ago, another radio station, we might have created a whole bunch of fake Shenyun ads because the group of us were very weird. And so we had a whole series of Shenyun things that happened because it's just fun to say Shenyun.
They say it so cool too.
I know. That's why you can't stop saying it.
All right, 9 o'clock hour. Kristi Burton Brown's going to join us because Democrats have now come up with another scheme to go after Tabor.
Ooh.
People often ask me, what is it going to take for me to leave Colorado? This might be it.
Yeah.
If we lost Tabor and all of a sudden we're paying California-style taxes and the legislature run by like Javier Marbury and the rest of them could just be like, more taxes, then I might be, all right.
Yeah,
I might have to.
The thing for me is that
this is like the thing holding me back.
Yeah, like it or love it, I believe that you can point to Tabor forcing lawmakers on both sides of the aisle to have some restraint. And it has really constrained much of the overspend that you see in other states. And that is, and again, I understand not liking it based on politics on both sides of the aisle from time to time, but part of the reason that the Democrats are struggling to get the financial house in order is because of Tabor. And anything for me, my personal belief, anything that makes them understand the limits of budgetary spending is a good thing.
Because it's monopoly money to them.
Yes, exactly. Anything that'll constrain and put them under some sort of an idea of a balanced budget, even though we're not there, that's a good thing.
Yep, we're going to be talking with Kristi Burton Brown about this new potential lawsuit against Tabor. Will it be successful? Could we lose the Taxpayer Bill of Rights? All that coming up next. Plus, Pete Boyles is joining us. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader. We are News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Denver Post reporting, Colorado Democrats call for a reckoning on Tabor and taxes, as GOP vows to fight against it. Quote, very, very hard. We're going to talk with Kristi Burton Brown, the Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado Institute, about this latest effort to take down Tabor. I went down to the teachers' protest a few weeks ago when the proposed budget cuts, and it wasn't cuts to teachers. It was actually cuts in the rate of growth to funding for teachers that are being proposed by Jared Polis and others, because there's a $1.2 billion budget shortfall. Now, in all of my conversations with teachers, did they at one time say, you know, some of these programs that the Democrats are running are just too expensive, maybe we should cut it back? No, 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 no. The big bad boogeyman for Democrats and teachers and progressives in the state of Colorado is Tabor. If we could please just get more taxes in, then the utopia of Colorado will be established. We just need your money, you selfish capitalists, keeping your dollars for your own family. What the heck? So, Democrats believe the one thing that's keeping Colorado from becoming great is Tabor. And they want to go after it now. Is it going to be successful? My goodness, if this falls, Colorado will collapse, in my opinion. But we'll get to that in just a second. Now it's time for Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning, 36 and mostly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 47 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Colorado Rep. Lauren Boebert from District 4 on the show last hour, and she has proposed a resolution to condemn terrorism to Tesla dealerships and Teslas across the country. Boebert says, hello, Democrats, this is what terrorism looks like.
This is hurting small business owners and business owners in our communities. The Loveland Tesla store has been hit 5 times, and I have not heard Democrats come out and condemn this. I'm not hearing Democrats from Colorado stand up and say, this is wrong, this is domestic terrorism. We took an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and truly just terrorism is the unlawful use of violence, threats, or intimidation, especially against civilians, to achieve political, ideological, or religious objectives. And so this absolutely is terrorism.
And speaking of Loveland, City Council member Aaron Black was caught on video in a verbal altercation with a Loveland citizen and causing some controversy in the city. Black asked Dillian Kaiser to meet her at a park to discuss differences that they have over issues. She showed up with at least 8 other people, and at one point surrounding this person said, quote, this is Loveland, not your MAGA bleep, bleep, bleep. And one councilwoman presented a motion that passed for Black to attend all meetings remotely until an investigation is complete on the altercation. And some have called for her to resign.
That remote proxy we're okay with. You're a lunatic.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait over there in your house, please.
Yeah, maybe all your votes, all your work can be done remotely. Thank you very much. Boy, that is the truth. It's Liberation Day in America, and DJT is passionate about tariffs, speaking this morning.
A tariff is a beautiful thing, but it's got a bad image. It needs you to fix the image. A tariff, we stop wars with tariffs. I mean, I had cases where I told a country they were being very aggressive with another country. It had nothing to do with us. I just don't like seeing dead people, okay? And they were going to go to war, and I said, if you go to war, and they do a lot of business with the United States. I'm putting 100% tariff on everything you do, any business you do with us. No, this has nothing to do. I said, it does have. I stopped a war. Will I get Nobel Prizes? Never. I mean, look what we did with the Abraham Accords, how good that was. But you can stop wars with tariffs.
Speaking to Larry Kudlow on Fox this morning, the Second Amendment continues to be attacked here in Colorado with the latest bill. Jeff Crank joined Jeff and Billy this morning.
This bill, Senate Bill 3, it essentially just turns over your Second Amendment rights to a county sheriff, right? And that's not even okay to me in my case, where I have a good county sheriff who opposes this bill in Sheriff Joe Roybal. But imagine if you have a sheriff who isn't friendly to the Second Amendment and who's just going to deny citizens. It's not their right to deny. The Second Amendment gives all of us a God-given right to defend ourselves. And so this is just one of the most egregious things that I've seen.
All right, the lefty lunatics supported their candidate for Wisconsin State Supreme Court. George Soros dumped a lot of cash into the election, into the race. Probably got it from us, the taxpayers. And Susan Crawford defeats Brad Schimmel. And now we anticipate gerrymandering. Control the country through the crooked judges. That is their plan.
John King, what do you, oh, look at that. A lot more red has shown up on that map of Florida 6 since we last spoke. I guess some of those early votes weren't indicative of where the counties ultimately would end up.
Last night on CNN, the good news. DJT posted on Truth Social that both Florida House seats have been won big by the Republican candidate. He said the Trump endorsement, as always, proved far greater than the Democrats' forces of evil. Congratulations to America. So 2 big wins in Florida last night. Alec Baldwin was on a plane last night. He watched the Ken Burns Civil War documentary, the great documentary. So Baldwin was able to escape his wife because she doesn't allow him to talk. And he says that we're in pre-Civil War right now.
And boy, you can see now that we are in a pre-Civil War culture now. When they describe things back then politically, there are profound differences, of course, in terms of just history and age and, you know, what life was like back then, and cotton and slavery and Lincoln and
all that stuff,
Robert E. Lee and so forth. There's just so many, this incredible story.
Okay, I'd say yes, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. But right now, it's the people, I think, versus the deep state globalists. The bad guys and the lefties are just confused and unhappy, and a lot are being red-pilled. Here's Harry N.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
Wolves are going to win it in a dramatic double overtime win on the road by 1.
T-Wolves beat the Nuggets last night 140-139 in double overtime. The Avalanche and the Blackhawks tonight at 7:30. Rockies at the Phillies tonight at 4:45. Snow is forecast for opening day, so that means you'll go out there for the first pitch unless they postpone it before the game. But you'll be out there all day long and night probably for first pitch and opening day for the Rockies at home. 33 in Highlands Ranch, 34 in North Glen, and 33 in Denver, home of the Buell Theater. I love that we changed that. Nice job. The Buell Theater, yes. Jeff and Billy continue.
Do you think they starved you or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food.
Yeah, he was a prisoner, Leslie. They starved him. For the love of God. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
A cool and unsettled stretch of weather will continue here for Denver through this work week and probably all the way through Saturday. Temperatures will be low to mid-50s today, cloudy with a few rain and snow showers around the area today and tonight, lows lower 30s. 40s and lower 50s Wednesday, a few showers of rain and snow with low to mid-40s Thursday into Thursday night and areas of rain and snow Friday and Saturday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
We're going to get to Kristi Burton Brown here in a second. I want to talk to you about my friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau. Do you know where your last meal came from? Sure, it was at a restaurant or made at home with food from the grocery store. But where did it come from before that? Chances are it came from a family farm or ranch right here in Colorado. Hey, it's Jeff Hunt, and I want to chat with you about Colorado agriculture. It's an industry that I'm passionate about and has been a part of Colorado since before we became a state. Farm family ranches on our eastern plains to local peach farms in the orchards of Palisade, they provide a wholesome and sustainable food production and contribute billions to our economy. And my friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau work hard to represent our agriculture industry. Farm Bureau members have been coming together for 104 years to protect agriculture and to help it grow and prosper. You can join them. To help continue this legacy, join and help support family farms and ranches at coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com. All right, Democrats are at it again. The Denver Post reporting they are calling for a reckoning on Tabor and taxes. A plan unveiled by a group of Colorado lawmakers aims to fundamentally change state tax policy and eliminate the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. What is it with these people? All right, to give us some insight on this, you know the name, you know the voice, Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado Institute. Kristi, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Bill.
All right, what's this latest scheme to go after Tabor, and is it going to work?
Well, I mean, it's nothing new, as you said. The Democrats here in Colorado, with a few exceptions like Governor Polis, love to go after Tabor. Every election cycle, they want to put more tax increases on the ballot, but because voters keep telling them no, they think they need to go to the core of the problem, which, funny enough, they define as a taxpayer's Bill of Rights. The resolution they're attempting to pass right now in the legislature that would give them, they think, the power to bring this lawsuit literally criticizes what they call direct democracy, which is voter approval of taxes. They're not shying away, actually, from calling it what it is. Like, basically, we're afraid of direct democracy. The people aren't with us. We're going to go around behind their backs, use taxpayer money to bring a lawsuit to try and eliminate Tabor from the state constitution. And Jeff and Bill, here's the interesting part. They've already lost in court. They tried this about 10 years ago, and then it took a 10-year court battle only for them to lose on the merits in federal court. And the 10th Circuit said, you actually don't have a claim against Tabor. The people passed this, the people put it in the Constitution, and it's there to stay. So I think if they go back to court, courts are going to tell them the same thing yet again.
What is their argument? What is the lawsuit based on?
Well, I mean, we have yet to see their actual filing, but what they tend to claim and what their last lawsuit claimed, and I think Representative Camacho is kind of making the same arguments in the media right now. He's even saying we don't have enough power. This is about basically voters taking power away from us to spend money however we want. That's almost a direct quote of what he told the media yesterday. This is about the power of the legislature. And so in legal terms, they challenge this part of they use this part of the Constitution called the Enabling Act. It's present in the U.S. Constitution and the Colorado Constitution, and it basically guarantees a Republican form of government. And what they think that means is, representatives are vested with all the power to make all the decisions for the people. What the court told them before, and I think we'll tell them again, is no, that's not the only definition of a Republican form of government. Here in the United States, it also includes an element of democracy where people get to choose. And here in Colorado, as you know, we have the state constitutional right to run citizens' ballot measures, and that's what Tabor was. So it's absolutely legal, absolutely constitutional, and popular.
We're talking with Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado Institute, and it's important to remind people you could raise taxes as much as you want in the state of Colorado. You could put a ballot initiative forward that said, we want to take 100% of everyone's taxes in order to run all of our programs. Democrats could do that today if they wanted to. What Tabor requires them to do is just simply ask the people. And when Democrats go out there and do this, lo and behold, voters are going, nah, we think we can use our own money better than you can. And Democrats are angry about that.
Exactly. No, I mean, you've painted the problem exactly correctly, Jeff. And that's the deal. Is they don't like the no from the people. Again, that's kind of what Representative Camacho, who's spearheading this right now, was indicating yesterday to the media. Like, this is about power. People have taken away our power to spend. We want to grab it back from the people and give it to ourselves. And I think, whenever that's how your politicians are talking, it should definitely give people a clue as to what they're actually all about. They're about power. They're about money. They're about taking away from you and not trusting your decisions, but saying they know better. And it's vital, I think, for people to remember Tabor is not a Republican issue. It's not a conservative issue. 70% of Coloradans, so that's people across the political spectrum, support Tabor. The last time they challenged it on the ballot was Proposition HH in 2023. Protecting Tabor won by nearly 20 points on the ballot. People want money in their pockets, not with the government. And, the government doesn't like to acknowledge that.
We're talking with Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado Institute, on a new lawsuit being initiated by the legislators, the lawmakers down at the state capitol, to try to essentially outright kill Tabor. Now, this is going to okay. We're going to have to use taxpayer dollars to bring the lawsuit. Then Jared Polis and Phil Weiser are going to have to use taxpayer dollars to defend Tabor in this lawsuit, right? Like we're relying on Phil Weiser here to defend the state against the Tabor lawsuit.
I will say, in the last lawsuit, that's actually exactly what they did. Both Governor Hickenlooper and Governor Polis, with the Attorney General at the time, did defend Tabor. And so you do see, like I said, it's popular with 70% of Coloradans, which does include some Democrats, including some of the top ones in charge. So I would expect to see Governor Polis and Phil Weiser defended again, is actually how I think that'll play out.
Now, is there a chance that Jared Polis could veto this thing? I'm not quite sure how a lawsuit from the state legislature works.
Sure, that's a great question, Jeff. So they're doing it as a resolution, which is kind of a funny way to do it. Usually resolutions are used, proclaim a certain day as, I don't know, soccer day in Colorado to honor a specific team, or that's how they use resolutions. Usually feel good, everyone agrees type thing, not to empower the legislature to spend money on a lawsuit. It's actually fairly disturbing that they're using the resolution to push forward a lawsuit that would cost taxpayers money and challenge taxpayers' rights. Basically, when the legislature would sue over Tabor, they'd be suing the people. And that's really offensive to use people's money to sue the people over the people's rights. But I think the reason they're using a resolution instead of an actual law or bill is because they do know Governor Polis supports Tabor and would probably veto something like this that would empower them to bring a losing lawsuit. So they're going around trying to use a resolution. And you probably saw in the article, too, there's a lot of other ways they're trying to go around and undermine Tabor, not only through this lawsuit, but also through considering a progressive income tax increase. They're also trying to create these additional enterprises where they can charge people fees to get more money and take back, the Tabor refunds. So I think the lawsuit's kind of getting the most attention right now, but there's a lot of other ways they're trying to undermine Tabor through legislation discussion.
We're talking with Kristi Burton Brown, the Executive Vice President of Advanced Colorado Institute. Now, since this is a resolution, is there a fiscal note attached to it? Which means, do we know how much this is going to cost? I only raise that because we're facing a $1.2 billion budget shortfall.
We are, absolutely. And, no, resolutions don't get fiscal notes attached to them. Probably yet another reason they're trying to go around the normal bill process, which is really, and that's the question, is this lawsuit, if they do bring it, even legitimate? if the only empowering mechanism to bring the lawsuit is a resolution, which doesn't have a fiscal note, which can't go through the governor, and which isn't the way they're supposed to pass law. And when you authorize a lawsuit and spend taxpayer money on it, that should be done through the bill process. So we will not see a fiscal note on a resolution. I think that is really disturbing. It's yet another way they're trying to say, ooh, the money isn't the people's business. Hands off the legislature's money, the government's money, when really the people of Colorado feel that the reverse is true. That's why paper is so popular. Like, the government should have its hands off our money. And they've created that huge shortfall they have in the budget this year. They just don't get to keep overspending. They've misspent, misprioritized, and also committed money that they didn't have and knew they weren't going to have. So that is very much a them problem, not a problem the people should be paying for.
That is Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President, Advance Colorado, joining Jeff and Bill live, talking about how the Democrats yet again are trying to get control of Tabor. I find it somewhat ironic that they're using, the idea of a resolution to do this, because they're not doing the heavy lifting of a bill. This is the same kind of stuff that's like, we honor this third grade classroom. Yay, we're happy about this. Or, we passed a resolution to make sure that all of the legislature supports Israel. There's no real efficacy as far as law behind it. So I find that interesting. But more importantly, I'm just kind of spitballing here, Kristi. I'm thinking we might have an idea to kind of help out our audience, maybe help out the rest of Colorado taxpayers if the Democrats are really coming for Tabor. Now, this is just, I haven't kind of workshopped this. I'm kind of springing this on you. I'm thinking that what we need to do in Colorado, if they take away Tabor, is we need to pass a law, and we can call it the anti-Tabor. And what it would allow is whatever percentage of overage our state government spends on a particular year, all Colorado residents are allowed that percentage of overage in their personal budget, but the state has to pay for it. So the idea being that if these government spends 20, 30% over their family budget, their state budget, because they're not versus revenue, then if you have revenue X, you're allowed to spend 30% above that just for free. Just for free. Since our government, our state government, is spending that money as if it is free as well, as if there are no economic consequences of overspending their budget, I think they should lead by example. And the leading is exactly the direction we need to go, and we need to make sure that all Colorado voters also get that idea.
Monopoly money, baby.
Yes. If they get to play with monopoly money and play with free money, we deserve the chance too. I think that is only fair. Now, again, I'm being facetious, but that's the example, is Tabor, in my mind, is the one thing that forces fiscal responsibility. And Kristi Burton Brown, you're 110% accurate that there's no incentive, especially for the Democrats, to have any sort of fiscal responsibility. That's why they come at Tabor as if it is a damn vampire in one of those matinee movies. That's the reason. They want to put a stake through its heart. So I'm just kind of being facetious. But yes, if that is the example by our Colorado lawmakers, if that is the leadership they are going to show, then I think all of us should be given that same grace period, that same percentage of overage, just to spend free money. Because if it's free, if there's no consequences of going over your budget, none of us should bear the consequences either. It's just a thought.
Well, and Billy, I think what your example illustrates is just how silly it would be for any of us to do that with our personal budget.
Yes.
Like working families in Colorado being one of the states with the highest rates of inflation over the last few years, families haven't gotten that grace and that ability. Like, they've had to deal with budget crises. But instead, the government wants to say, no, while you deal with your own personal financial crisis, why will we charge you more money in fees? I mean, $23.3 billion in fees is what voters and citizens across Colorado paid in 2023. And the government's like, nope, we need more. Nope, we need more. You deal with your crisis and pay for ours too. And that's why people don't like this. That's why people always support the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It's why it's popular across the aisle. People are smarter than the government gives them credit for, and they're not going to stand for these kind of attacks on Tabor.
Yeah, I love the fact that they are going to balance their budget on your back. The idea that, no, I understand you're struggling with the money, but what we need to do is have more of it so that we can overspend on our budget. That it's just, the logic behind it is just mind-bogglingly stupid.
We're talking with Kristi Burton Brown, Executive Vice President of Advance Colorado. You all are great defenders of Tabor. Anything going on the ballot this upcoming year with regards to Tabor coming from you guys?
Well, that's a great question, Jeff. We can't put anything on the ballot in 2025 because in odd years, you actually have to go after Tabor to put things on the ballot and take money away. And so obviously we don't do that. If the left tries to attack Tabor this year, obviously we'll fight it like we always do. But in 2026, we have a whole lot of ballot measures that we're putting through title board right now and seeing, exactly where that comes down. I think you can definitely expect to see public safety ballot measures from Advance that will make Colorado safer, since the legislature refuses to do that as well, but the people want it. And we are looking at a fee measure, too. I brought up that $23.3 billion in fees, and we're all familiar with the bag fee, the delivery fee, the gas tax, what they call fee. Everything the legislature likes to do to continually charge people money, and they don't get a service for it. They're not actually receiving anything. It's not proportionate to what they're getting. You're paying far more than what you get. So I think fixing that fee reform is a huge issue that we're looking at in Colorado. You have to make it constitutional, because the legislature does ignore Prop 117 that the voters passed all too often. And I think putting a definition of fee and exactly what that is to distinguish it from a tax, putting that in the Constitution would be vital to having real fee reform. So that's a key issue we're looking at this year.
That's a big deal. As you mentioned, lots of money going to those, quote, fees. They're not taxes, fees. Kristi, Burton, Brown, Advance Colorado. Go check out advancecolorado.org. Advancecolorado.org. They're doing fantastic work getting a just rational agenda done here in Colorado in spite of complete progressive control. They're actually moving things forward. That's why I think you should support, be a part of the work that Advance Colorado is doing. Kristi, Burton, Brown, KBB, thanks for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff and Bill.
All right, we've got the man, the myth, the legend coming up. Pete Boyles is going to preview what his show is going to be about on Saturday. You're not going to want to miss that. I do want to talk to you real quick about our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. Look, you're losing your hair. You need a simple solution that works. You want the best. Modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. That's what matters, right? So if you got a receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments, and get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. I was watching a video the other day of all the celebrities, Matt Damon and the Ben Affleck, all these guys that have had their hair done to get that movie star look. That's what you got to do. And Advanced Hair is there to provide that. By the way, Bill, I saw Advanced Hair again, Westward's top hair service.
Oh, that's excellent. That's fantastic.
Great. So congratulations to our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. No one in Denver can offer anything like the advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair. Highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. So refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Pete Boyles up next, hanging out with Jeff and Bill.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. When he's in studio, we love to bring him by because he gives us a good preview of his Rockstar show on Saturdays, 9 to 1 on 710 KNUS, the legendary Peter Boyles. Pete, what do you got for folks this weekend?
Well, I understand from friends of mine that you guys spoke about the legendary when I pulled the Orson. I was Orson.
Yes.
Well, there's Orson Welles and
That was
H.G.
so
Wells.
good. The problem was we could only play a limited amount of it because we wanted to play just this long segment with Tommy Moeller struggling through Spanish and the setup. We started out with the part where Crowley is locked out of the building and is in the parking lot, and you've got the two invaders inside of the studio, and they basically take over. So that's the bit that we played where it kind of went through that part. It was so cool.
As a radio history geek, when Orson Welles, 1938 Halloween night, and that's still people talk about
the invasion,
the power.
Yeah,
and it was
I have an entire book at home with all of that on CD because that is so important to me because of how that was executed and pulled off. Yeah,
and I've always wanted. Wells is one of my heroes, and I've always wanted to do it. So I had the exact right people, Efron and Roberto, and they created a morning Spanish team called Chewy and Baca. We invented the name for their team.
So good.
Tommy Miller, Billy, you weren't part of that. Casey Blue.
No, it was Casey. Yeah.
And Casey's wife was calling. Everybody was missing, and there were black limos outside, and Mark Crowley, and believe it or not, Jeffy, the Aurora PD came.
Yeah, they showed up to see because we kept talking about the crowd outside in the parking lot. Yes, so cool.
And they would call. We would do like Mark was in the parking lot. Mark said, "I don't know who these people are." Everybody played their role, and Tommy's on the West Coast right now, but he can come in by phone. But Tom Muller struggling with Spanish because to keep his job.
Yeah, he had to learn
So
Spanish.
let's set the stage. This was April Fool's Day, 2015.
Yep.
KNUS does what?
I have this idea, which once again is a bad thing to start, but I said I want to do, and because all of the stuff that was going on, and again, if you know the atmosphere in our country when Wells pulls off Halloween. Yeah. And in fact,
what was the name of that again?
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
I was going to say Space Invaders. War of the Worlds. Yep.
No, that's a video game. I was pretty good at that too.
But in fact, when Pearl Harbor happened, there were people in this country said, that's another trick by Wells. Wow. When people were announcing that the Japanese had struck Pearl, that there were people that believed that it was Wells again. And remember, Wells does every major thing in his life under the age of 30.
Yeah.
He does War of the Worlds, does Citizen Kane. And he did Kane when he was like 28, 29 years old. And in the aftermath, how would you like to have said, everything I did that was of meaning, I did before I turned 30. And so I'm a big Wells fan, but so Mark played a role. And by the way, we're having Tancredo on because he got a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Tommy C, I was there.
Yeah.
Tommy the Tank, I was in the room when he did that. That was great.
He's my guy. We've been through a lot. And so Tom's going to come on and talk. But it'll be Casey, who was the board. Where did we have? Okay, we had Casey. Casey had been kidnapped.
Yes, Casey was kidnapped, and it was that. He was still at home, and he wasn't. Yeah, Beth called, and he couldn't come in. Yeah, so his wife was like, "No, Casey's been told not to come in. That his badge doesn't work. He's not supposed to come in." So he wasn't there, and then Mark can't get in.
Mark could not get into building. Roberto and Efron had taken over my job.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there acting like I can do so well, acting stupid, and they became Chewy and Baca. And then we had Spanish language traffic reports, Spanish news, Spanish music, Crowley. Then, believe it or not, it's a true story, two people panicked out, and people were in the parking lot out here. And then the Aurora PD came to the door.
Yeah.
So you won.
Because people were getting calls, or they were listening, just kind of both.
They thought it was real.
Yeah.
Wow. Now I got to ask, how did you guys game plan this all out? Did you have like a meeting the night before and talk through it, or did you just kind of riff it as you went?
I had the idea, and I had the roles assigned, and the people that were involved, from Tommy to Roberto and Efron, they were magic. It wasn't like, okay, they got it. And they knew what we were going to do. You know, there's a YouTube video of it.
I posted it on my X account yesterday.
But just have all those guys, and I love them all so dearly, and have them all together and talk about, and how Mueller, Mueller's a straight.
Yeah.
He is.
He is so
He's
straight.
You think I'm straight?
Oh, he's
he's a whole nother level.
No, he's straight. And,
he is.
And then he would come in, and his newscast was hilarious because he was mispronouncing.
Yes, and on purpose, and you could hear the frustration in his voice that was real, but also pretend. And there was so much. He did such a good job because he is such a great straight man.
Oh,
he wasn't.
He's great. And then Kelly Michaels took the role of the new general manager, Mr. Somebody. I forget what we called him. So he sat in there where you are, Billy, and he would say, "No, Peter." You know, he would have that kind of, "No, Peter," and you're done. You're no. They were putting me in, and I had just been put in the street of Cahal, for my shenanigans over there. So I was like, it was logical, but Efron and when Roberto and Efron came in and they hit it, they just hit it great. So
and they
where
nailed
are those guys now? What
they're both working in Efron's at Telemundo, and
Efron and
Kevin's in Christian Radio.
Yeah, Kevin's Way FM.
And they're going to be
Kevin's
joining you tomorrow, Saturday.
They're coming in studio.
Oh, that's going to be so fun.
Yeah. And Kevin is one of the hardest working, most genuine, most wonderful people that I've ever worked in this business at. He is an incredible human being and would do anything for you. And at sometime or another, I'll regale you with the crazy stories of his bachelor party, in which a lot of us had gone out there, and were out there that night. And someone, Big Don, who doesn't work here anymore, accidentally broke a table in a restaurant. So we had to slink out quickly because he accidentally broke the table. Because Don's a big dude and partial Native American. So when there's like a gas tank. When his tank gets mostly full, he's like Baby Huey from Looney Tunes. He doesn't know his own strength. And he literally was just kind of leaning and coming down to this table, making a point, and broke the top off of it. And we were like, oh, out of this bar. We got to go, guys. And so we kind of set it there, and we slowly slink out of the bar to get out of there quickly, so we're not responsible for the broken table. But that's only part of the night's adventures with Kevin.
When Kevin got married, it's like we all went to the wedding. It's like, it was it was a cultural
experience
to watch.
Fun. Yeah.
And his wife was lovely, and he's got kids now.
So Peter Boyles live in studio with us right now. We're talking and previewing his show this Saturday, which is going to harken back to the famous April Fool's Day of 2015. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll continue with Pete.
Thanks, man.
Dan suggests, I want to talk to you about Dan Caplis and my friend Dan Caplis with Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Pete and I have known Dan for I've known him for well over a decade. How about you? You've known Dan.
Been wonderful to my family. We went through some stuff. And
did you use Dan Caplis?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. And and he would call my house at 9:00 at night when he was home, and his day was over, and he would call to talk to us. And
he's a real deal.
He really.
He's been doing this for 40 years, helping people. He's committed to justice. He's committed to people. But more than just being a great guy that follows up like he did with Pete, Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law, so trusted, listen to this, that he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law, serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number. Put it in your phone now so you have it when you need it. 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551. Or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with Peter Boyles, Bill, You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's been a wild show. Jeff Crank on joining us. Mike Koenig, the owner of Foundation Firearms, who's shutting down, getting out of state because of these gun restriction laws, joined us. Lauren Boebert, 8 o'clock, joined us. Kristi Burton Brown, 9 o'clock, joined us. And if you missed any of that, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast there. Sitting live in studio with us, Peter Boyles, previewing the show on Saturday. Harkening back, I mean, we just kicked off the show on April 1st, Pete, and the text messages, hey, do you remember when KNUS did this? Do you remember? They love that show that took place in 15.
I thank you both, and I got lots of calls on that, which triggered my idea, let's do a reunion and have people talk about what happened behind the scenes. But I'm telling you, 2 Aurora PD guys in helmets beating on that door down the hall, and Crowley, who is, the security. Yeah. And the guys came in, and we ended up talking they came in the studio and put their feet up, and we got them coffee, and everybody came in. Roberto came in, and the Aurora PD guys were great. I mean, they totally got it, and
no hard feelings. No, you're wasting our resources.
No.
Cut it off, Pete. They sat down and joined you.
In New York, when Wells did it, he had a lot of falling out and big stuff, and I think LaGuardia might have been mayor when he did that, and they didn't think that. My mother, because it was a national broadcast, my mother believed that the machines, as they called them, were walking across the Allegheny River. Wow. And people actually believed Wells, and it's always been something I thought, wow, that would be really cool to do.
Now, we got a minute left.
Sure.
You think radio can continue to do this?
It's being done on what we were talking about, when families gathered around radios, when Wells did it, families gathering around radios during FDR's Far Side. Now families gather around the computers.
Yeah, and their phones, and they share things, and they do it that way. Well, this Saturday is going to be a very unique treat. You need to listen Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., as Pete brings back the guys from the April 1st, 2015.
We're putting the band back together. Some of these guys, I don't know, but...
So April 1st, 2015, Peter Boyles led a April Fool's Day joke where the Spanish format station took over the morning conservative talk, and it went so well. Police showed up. You can watch it at x.com/Jeff Hunt if you want. But tune in this weekend, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and Pete's going to bring. We're
going to do this at noon on the way out the door. So.
Oh, great! Yeah, that is fun.
See the boys.
All right,
thanks, Jeff.
Thanks to everybody.
Billy. Love you, man.
Being a part of the conversation today. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Don't miss Peter Boyles this weekend. Got to be there at noon.